They will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and you folks can start now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
I'm going to take that one.
Next
John's
up
got this
is
one.
the swearing in of the town elected officials. Dottie Powers, Clerk of Courts, will conduct the swearing in. Clerk of Courts, Clerk of the town.
Congratulations to all of our town officials who were elected to town offices at the annual town election held on Tuesday, April 24th. At this time, we would like to recognize you by asking that you come up to the front when your name is called. Once everybody has come up to the stage, I will administer the oath of office. So let's begin with the assessor, Maureen Blade, if she's here. Assessor Philip Shapiro, if he's here. Housing Authority, Alyssa Gourdette-Franco. Library Trustees, Mary Maisie Phelps, Wendy Thornton. Moderator, James O'Sullivan. Planning Board, Deborah Conant, Christopher Pfaff. School Committee, Maya Plotkin. Selectman, Nancy Hyde. Sewer Commissioner, Patrick Ahern. And Treasurer, James Gavin. Jim here? Anybody seen Jim? Okay, so at this time, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name, do solemnly swear and affirm that I will faithfully, according to the best of my knowledge and ability, perform the duties of the office in which I was elected to, in accordance with the bylaws of the town of Westwood and the laws of the Commonwealth. Congratulations. Thank you for your service.
Next up is the resolutions and awards, and I will turn it over to the Board of Selectmen to preside over that piece of the program.
Good evening. The first resolution tonight is to HALE, and I invite Eric Arnold, the Executive Director of HALE, to join me. HALE, so you all know, is celebrating 100 years of operation. The Board of Selectmen would like to recognize HALE now for celebrating its 100th anniversary. HALE is known for offering educational and recreational opportunities that develop self-confidence, inspire passion for learning, and encourage appreciation for the natural environment. HALE consists of over 1,100 acres of land with 4 ponds and 20 miles of trails. It offers 8 different camps, has 300 employees, and provides over 100,000 swimming lessons each summer. HALE is also a leader in education programming that supports academic goals of school districts hosting over 9,000 students during the school year, including a semester school. HALE is also a champion in providing equity in educational programs for underserved youth. We ask that a full copy of the resolution be placed in the official records of the 2018 annual town meeting, and that a signed copy be given to Eric Arnold this evening. And as I said before, he's Executive Director of Hale. Please join me in congratulating Hale.
Good evening. The Board of Selectmen would like to recognize and thank Trevor Lobenstein. Trevor? Come on up, Trevor. Trevor has been serving 3 years on the Planning Board, being first elected in 2015 and serving as chairman this past year. During his term on the Planning Board, Trevor was instrumental in the successful review and approval of several university station projects. He served on the Islington Task Force and as Planning Board representative as the town's Regional Transportation Advisory Council representative from 2015 to 2018. We ask that a full copy of this resolution be placed in the official records of the 2018 annual town meeting, and this signed copy be presented to Trevor tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, nice warm welcome, please, for Trevor Lobenstein.
Our next resolution is for Mike Crone. If he's here, please join me. I'm not sure that he is, but this is a very worthy recognition tonight. The Board of Selectmen would like to recognize and thank Mike Crone for having served the town for more than 30 years, beginning with his service on the Finance and Warrant Commission back in 1989. Mike served as chair in 1994 and then was elected to the Board of Assessors in 1996. And he served on that board with distinction for 22 years. In that role, he provided tremendous guidance in ensuring the town's values were fair and equitable and in compliance with the Department of Revenue rules. He also helped fully automate the assessor's office and operations and provided excellent guidance each year to the Board of Selectmen on setting the commercial residential split tax rate. Mike also served for 15 years on the Long Range Financial Planning Committee, beginning with its inception back in 2003. He served as one of the lead contributors to the town's efforts to build financial stability, including efforts to fully fund the Stabilization Fund, addressing our OPEB liability, promoting sustainable budgets, use of university station tax revenue on a prudent basis, and a debt limit analysis, all of which has contributed to the town experiencing a AAA bond rating. Mike's professional insight, sound judgments, and cheerful attitude have significantly benefited the town residents and staff, and therefore we ask that a full copy of the resolution be placed in the official records of this town meeting and that we provide Mike with a signed copy. Please join me in giving Mike a round of applause for his service. Okay, next up is Brian Kelly. Is Brian Kelly in the house? I'm sure he's on his way. It's probably the parking situation that I think we're all having fun with. My honor to now present a resolution for Brian Kelly. The Board of Selectmen would like to recognize Brian for his service to the town over 21 years that he served on the Westwood School Committee, first having been elected in 1997. He served several years as chair, vice chair, and clerk throughout his terms. During his term on the school committee, Brian gave his time unselfishly to our school system and town to advocate for the education of our children. Brian was involved in the hiring of superintendents, participated in the design and renovation of the Martha Jones and Downey school additions. He was instrumental in convincing town leaders and townspeople of the need for this new Westwood High School. And he advocated for continued rigor in the school district's curriculum at all levels. And we ask that a copy of the resolution be placed in tonight's official records and that we provide Brian with a signed copy of his resolution. Again, thank you to Brian Kelly. And next, I would like to recognize Tony Antonellis. Sometimes Tony doesn't need any further recognition. I think most of us know who he is. But nonetheless, Tony is relocated out of Westwood, and we would like to recognize and thank him for having served the town for 25 years in various capacities, including selectman, moderator, and sewer commissioner. And most recently on the sewer commission, where he was elected to in 2006, Tony participated in many projects, including but not limited to the maintenance of over 87 miles of sewer mains, rehabilitation of 3,000 feet of 20-inch transmission lines, and the implementation of the second meter reader policy, and several other projects that have helped improve the town. These projects, among many others, directly impact our residents by limiting increases in sewer charges to residents and businesses who are connected to the town sewer system. Again, I ask that a full copy of the resolution be placed in tonight's official records, and we present Tony with a copy of the resolution. Thank you.
I believe the person I'm recognizing is in the house this evening. Okay. The town would like to recognize and thank Alice Moore for her 4 years of service as town moderator, being first elected in 2014. Alice has since provided over 4 annual town meetings and 4 fall town meetings. During her service as moderator, she gave generously of her time and consistently demonstrated the qualities of leadership, dedication, and fairness during those meetings. Now, Alice also served on the Government and Charter Study Task Force from 2009 to 2011, where she participated in a lengthy process of a comprehensive review of the town's charter, which was ultimately approved and signed into law in 2012. Finally, Alice has also served on the Westwood Community Chest, which is a nonprofit organization in town. And she served with that organization from 2008 to 2013. And particularly, she served as its president in 2011-2012, during which time the Community Chest was awarded the Roy London Humanitarian Award for its commitment to our community. Now, Mr. Hickey, Madam Hyde, Mr. Walsh, we ask that a full copy of this resolution be placed in the official records of the 2018 annual town meeting, and that this signed copy be given to Alice this evening. Let's congratulate Alice.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Hickey. I'm the chairman of the Board of Selectmen. At this time, I'd ask that Mr. Pat Ahern join us. This evening, it's my pleasure to award the John J. Cronin Public Service Award to Mr. Patrick Ahern, who doesn't need much introduction in Westwood. The Cronin Award is the highest award that the town offers a citizen each year for the spirit that they embody, and in John Cronin's memory. John Cronin was a longtime treasurer of the town of Westwood, and aside from his duties as an elected official, gave selflessly of his time in the betterment of our town. So it's fitting that we tonight award Patrick Ahern with an award named in Mr. Cronin's memory. As many of you know, Patrick was a long-term member of the Board of Selectmen. He served from 1998 to 2016. I had the fortune of succeeding him on the Board of Selectmen. Pat served as chair 6 times. He served on the Economic Development Advisory Board and was chair just prior to being elected to the Board of Selectmen. Pat has been a vociferous advocate for the Aid to the Elderly Relief Fund. He raised $450,000 to assist tax relief to the many seniors in Westwood who need relief on their property taxes. Pat was a zealous advocate for open space in our environment. Pat lobbied and received a $1 million state grant to preserve Lowell Woods, which we all are fortunate to use today. Pat was instrumental in assisting in the preservation of 79 acres of open space that again existed on the Stryer estate that is preserved in infinity. Aside from all that, Pat was president of the Pop Warner Football League. He was a Little League coach and an active parishioner at St. Margaret Mary's Parish, and an all-around good guy. Pat was recently elected to the Sewer Commission, and he will continue to serve our town in so many ways. On behalf of the John J. Cronin Public Service Award Committee, it is with great pleasure that we present this prestigious award to Mr. Patrick J. Ahern and ask that the full resolution be included in the 2018 town meeting records and add his name to the plaque displayed in Town Hall listing all previously honored individuals. And with me is John Cronin, Jr. Thank you both.
For those people that know me, speechless is not a descriptive term, but I'm truly speechless tonight. This is a tremendous honor. John Cronin was treasurer when I first got on the Board of Selectmen, and he was a mentor to me. The Cronin family, I want to thank the Cronin family and John Cronin Jr. They've been tremendous supporters. I've been a very lucky person. So I want to thank the town for its support for all the years. I want to thank my families here tonight for their support to allow me to do all the things I can do. And I want to encourage each and every one of you tonight to think about public service. It's one of the most rewarding things you can do to help give back to your community and make it a better place. So thank you for your kind ovation. Thank you for the award. And thank you for all that you've done for me and my family in my tenure here. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Pat, and congratulations to all of the officials who are taking a break from public service. As you all know, I'm a big fan of public service, so encourage anyone to please volunteer. We're in the process of just trying to make sure that folks have been checked in. We do believe that we may need to move visitors to the professional development room. If visitors, or anybody who is not a registered voter could stand up. Who will be directing visitors to the professional development room? Okay. Okay. So someone from the registrars will be able to show you where you need to go. And I'll try to be loud. Okay. So again, all visitors should be in the professional development room. Otherwise, I should be seeing registered voters in the stands and in the seats. I am Alice Moore of 44 Whitney Avenue, and I am your duly elected moderator and happy to preside over this 2018 annual town meeting. I do call the annual town meeting to order. The clerk has informed me that we have well more than a quorum, and so we will begin with town meeting. We have a variety of presentations that will be made throughout the evening. Those folks who have requested to make presentations will make their presentations from the front of the room. I will read the warrant. So the constables have duly served the warrant for this annual town meeting. And the Board of Selectmen have moved to dispense with the reading of the warrant. And is there a second to that motion? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We will have a motion to complete business by 10:45. The Selectmen make that motion. Let me just read the motion. Business of this meeting, if the business of the meeting is not completed by 10:45, the meeting will be adjourned to tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. here in the gymnasium. Further, the Selectmen move that the moderator has discretion to extend the time of this meeting this evening if it appears that the meeting can be completed within a reasonable time and on this night. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Preliminary instructions for the conduct of town meeting. This meeting is conducted according to parliamentary rules contained in the publication titled Town Meeting Time. Persons who are not registered voters in Westwood cannot vote and must sit in the visitors section, which has been clearly marked. And this evening is in the front of the gym. Actually, it's in the professional development room. Just a reminder. The only exception here is for those who are town employees or consultants and need to sit with their appropriate board or commission. Only registered voters here in Westwood may vote. Only registered voters may speak, and if you are registered and you wish to speak this evening, because of the logistics of this room, which is quite challenging, we have 4 microphones stationed on the outer parts of the aisles. So there is 2 microphones in front, and there's 2 microphones midway back. And so I am asking that you go to the microphone if you do want to speak, and you wait for me to recognize you. There will be someone from the clerk's office volunteering to help make sure that that's orderly. I will make every effort to make sure that I evenly distribute the opportunity to speak this evening. You must wait to be recognized by the moderator, and your comments are directed through the moderator. If you cannot get to a microphone and you do need an accommodation, please do let someone from the clerk's office know, and we will make sure that you do get a microphone. So there is one person who will have a microphone and travel, but otherwise everyone needs to go to a standing microphone. Free expression of all points of view is an important part of this democratic process and this town meeting. To allow all persons to speak who may wish to do so, each speaker should state the point clearly and concisely. If others have already expressed your views, please do not feel obligated to repeat. As comments become repetitive, the moderator will limit debate and can move the question. It is important to give people a chance to speak, and so there will be limits on how many times one person can speak. Clapping, booing, or shouts of approval or disagreement from the audience are discouraged. The logistics of this meeting being particularly challenging, it's a large meeting. We do have need for hearing accessibility. Please do not speak until I have recognized you, and then please speak directly into the microphone. It is important that everybody who speaks tonight speak into a microphone. So there can't be folks chatting up here with each other and having conversations. It needs to come through me. We have 19 articles before the town for action. The articles will be considered in order and may only be considered by the town when a proper motion to take up that article has been made and seconded. In our meetings and pursuant to our charter, the Finance and Warrant Commission, which I may refer to as Finance Commission or FinCom going forward, makes the initial recommendation and motion, and those motions and explanations of the vote appear in the warrant booklet, which were mailed and are available out front or available online through your iPad or other tablet. If you can't access those, please ask someone for help. The Finance Commission's recommendations are either in favor or for indefinite postponement and appear in bold type after each article. The motions from the Finance Commission, other than those for indefinite postponement, are subject to amendment. Amendment cannot be by voice request and must be in writing and presented to the moderator. Amendments must be seconded, then open for discussion, then voted on. If successful, we then consider the effect of the amendment on the main motion. The moderator is responsible to track motions and make rulings about whether a motion is in scope and properly presented. Once a motion has been made, we may then discuss the merits of the article. We will continue discussion reasonably and respectfully until everyone who has an interest in speaking has had an opportunity. It is the moderator's job to maintain order and decorum and facilitate an effective town meeting with the successful conclusion of the town's business. When addressing the meeting, please state your name and address, which is required for the record. I ask that you state your point and your comment. If you hear my gavel, you must stop speaking. I will announce what type of vote is required by the voters. In this case today, it's a majority or a 2/3 vote. Please note that a motion to reconsider may only be voted on the same night the article was voted. Reconsideration requires a 2/3 vote of those present and voting. This means that if there is a second night of this town meeting, warrant articles already voted on may not be reconsidered. Before each vote, I will explain the vote required. I will then ask for the ayes and nays. Where the decision is clear, I will call the vote. That wasn't me. If I think there is any doubt about the vote, I will ask. In this case, today we are doing an electronic voting pilot, and then if the electronic vote works, we will use this electronic vote in lieu of a standing vote. Once the vote is counted, I will announce the results. There is a rule by which 7 voters may doubt the vote, and then a special vote count will be conducted. These rules are covered in our town bylaws. Tonight, that may be by electronic voting. To introduce electronic voting and how it works and conduct the pilot, I'm going to introduce Greg Alexander from Turning Technologies to explain the process and allow for questions. And also do a little quiz. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator. I am Greg Alexander. I'm from Turning Technologies, and we will be piloting electronic voting. Those of you that attended the fall town meeting, we have overcome those issues. We actually have a couple of test questions that will allow you to practice. As far as the voting itself, each eligible voter does have a response card keypad or clicker. When the motion shows on the screen, you'll press the 1A button on the clicker to cast a yes vote. The 2/B button would be a no vote. You can press the buttons as many times as you want. You'll only be casting 1 vote. The software will only allow you to cast 1 vote per device, per motion. The last vote that you cast before the polling is closed is the vote that will be accepted. So if you make one selection and you change your mind while the voting is still open, you can change your answer. Again, it will be the last vote you cast before the voting is closed that will be accepted by the software. Things that these will not do, folks, they will not change the channel on your TV. They won't help you balance your checkbook. So please, there will be volunteers at the doors as you exit. Please turn those back in so that we can gather them and get them shipped back. We do have a couple practice questions here. This is the first question. These are laid out exactly the same as the
And
warrant motion.
no Googling the responses.
The article motions are laid out. So was Westwood once part of Dedham? Again, you'll press 1 for yes, 2 for no. There is a countdown timer. The moderator will call for when that countdown timer should begin. That will indicate to you that you have 20 seconds left to finalize your vote once you see that timer on the screen. When it gets down to 0, as now, you'll immediately see the results show up in a chart on the screen. In this case, everyone, 95% of you are correct. Westwood was once part of Dedham. Next question. Is the little drummer boy from the Battle of Bunker Hill buried in Westwood? Again, 1 for yes, 2 for no. And the countdown timer comes on, indicating 20 seconds remain. Get your vote in. Look at that.
Wow. And the answer is?
I have been told by the town clerk, Dottie Powers, that the answer is yes. The little drummer boy is buried in the cemetery, the Westwood Cemetery. Thank you all. Do you want me to field any questions?
Do people have questions about electronic voting at this point? It does seem to have gone quite well. Yes, I see you're going to have to go to a standing microphone.
I have a question.
And
Is
can
it
you
not
just-
possible?
Can you just state your name
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
address?
David Russell, 23 Highview Street. Is it not possible to display the number of votes cast?
Absolutely, it is. Dave, you want to toggle over to show the raw count?
Oh, I see, up at the top.
Due to rounding, because of the numbers, that's where it came out so close.
Got it. Thank you.
Other questions for Greg Alexander?
Okay. Thank you very much.
So, as is our practice for all votes, including those that require a 2/3 vote in accordance with Section 138-17F of the General Bylaws, I will first take a voice vote. If I am unable to discern the vote, or if 7 people challenge the vote in accordance with Section 138-17 sub G of the General Bylaws, I will order that the vote be taken with the electronic voting system we have available. As within any counted vote, such vote will be final. Should persons be dissatisfied with the outcome of the counted vote, the recourse will be to seek reconsideration. Section 138-16 of the town bylaws provides that a motion to reconsider must be brought at the same session of town meeting, is subject to a 2/3 vote, and may only be made once. Are there any questions about the use of electronic voting at this town meeting at this time? Yes, sir, please go to a microphone.
Bill Brooks of 1666 High Street. As the electronic vote is essentially a secret ballot, does it not require the 50% vote to approve the secret ballot vote for each instance where we use it?
It is not a secret ballot.
The definition of a secret ballot appears to be a ballot which is in which the voting is
It
not
is
public.
possible to discern the vote.
It's not possible to discern an individual's vote.
It is possible to discern an individual vote. It is not possible for the whole group to discern an individual vote, but the votes are calculated.
Can we get clarification from Turning, please?
Excuse me?
Can we get clarification from Turning, please?
Okay, so at this time, just to clarify, the opinion is that this is not a secret ballot, but because it's been questioned, I do believe that we should take a vote. And so this will be an electronic vote, or let's start with a voice vote on the use of electronic voting. Those in favor of the use of electronic voting for this town meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Can we have?
Those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. There will be use of electronic voting at this town meeting. Okay. There will be, as I said, presentations during the course of this evening, and we're going to start with John Hickey, Chair of the Board of Selectmen, who will give a broad overview of the articles, and then Pam Dukeman, who will give a view of the budget and the finance report.
Now that I have figured out PowerPoint, as we transition to the business portion of tonight's meeting, I wanted to formally introduce myself. My name is John Hickey. I live at 117 Sunrise Road. For the past year, I've had the good fortune of serving as the chairman of the Board of Selectmen. On behalf of my colleagues on the board, Nancy Hyde and Michael Walsh, and our town administrator, Michael Gillette, I want to thank you for your attendance at this spring's annual town meeting. Prior to the start of tonight's proceedings, we swore in the officials who were elected in April's town election. I want to again congratulate and welcome 3 residents who were sworn into elective office for the first time: Maya Plotkin, Deb Conant, and Jim Sullivan. Westwood has been an independent municipality for 121 years. It is actually a short period of time when compared to most other municipalities in Massachusetts who were incorporated in the 1600s and 1700s. For the 121 years, town meeting has served us well. Generations of Westwood residents have from time to time met and made decisions with a long-range view that has allowed our town to thrive. In a few moments, you will hear from Pamela Dukeman, our finance director. Pam will update us on the town's revenue, and more importantly, Pam will highlight our strong financial position. This position has allowed us to fund our nationally recognized school system, to provide exceptional services to all residents. Westwood's employees, whether they are in a classroom, driving a snowplow, responding to public safety emergencies, or providing service at our libraries, recreation events, or at town hall, are a highly engaged core of professionals who care deeply about this town. Like any successful entity, it is incumbent upon us as decision makers in our town's future to follow in the footsteps of those before us and ensure that we serve our charge seriously and make decisions that will allow generations after us to enjoy the high standard of living that we enjoy today. I want to touch very briefly on tonight's articles before we begin. The first 10 articles are standard articles at town meeting and are essentially the various components of the town's budget. Pam will present a brief overview of the town's budget and our financial positions. Articles 11 and 12 are relative to the Islington Center redevelopment. Michael Walsh will provide a brief presentation on the process that led to these articles and highlight the benefits for our town if these warrant articles were to pass. Article 13 is again relative to the Islington Center redevelopment, and the Planning Board will offer its report on this warrant article. Article 14 allows for the town to appropriate $1.75 million for the purposes of continuing our participation in the Massachusetts School Building Authority Fund. This is a necessary step as we develop an infrastructure plan for our elementary schools. Article 15 is a petitioner article. Article 16 is a recurrent article that authorizes the Board of Selectmen to apply for and accept funding from the state should it be available for roadway improvements. The town has been successful in recent years in receiving grant money for certain improvements. Article 17 codifies in our bylaws efforts by our new Fire Chief, John Deckers, to modernize snow and ice removal language. The intent of this article is to raise awareness and better define the department's ability to deal with issues surrounding the clearing of hydrants. Article 18 will authorize the town to spend up to $125,000 for a comprehensive safety and security study of our physical plant. This will be presented by Mrs. Hyde. Article 19 creates an affordable housing account that is funded equally by the development community and the town of Westwood, and I look forward to presenting that to you. I again want to thank you all for your participation.
Ms. Dukeman.
Good evening. Pam Dukeman, 57 Sexton Ave. I'm the town's finance director. Each year, we like to provide you with a little bit of background on the town's finances to help you understand the development of the financial warrant articles. I'm going to move through this material very quickly tonight where we have a full agenda, and I would like to point out that there's a lot more financial information in the back of your town meeting book and on the town's website. The budget articles that we present have to address multiple areas of the town's finances. As shown on this slide, they include the following. Our operating budget, the most important area of the town's spending, where we provide direct services through our municipal and school departments to the community. We also have to take care of our capital assets, including maintaining our school and municipal buildings, making sure we have safe and efficient equipment for our public safety and DPW departments, making sure our recreational facilities and roads are in good shape. We also have to provide for our long-term liabilities, including our pension and OPEB liabilities. We do need to make sure that we have appropriate levels of reserve accounts, money in the bank to make sure we have a good credit rating. And we're trying to balance all of that against the impact on the tax bill. The Board of Selectmen and the Finance and Warrant Commission have worked very hard over the last several years to make sure that the budgets we present to town meeting are comprehensive, well-developed, well-rounded, and that they deal with all of these various issues. And you'll see in tonight's warrant articles that they've continued to do the same this year. Our revenue tonight for the FY19 budget is $98 million, about a 3% increase over the current year. The pie chart shows the various elements of our revenue, with our main source of revenue, our taxes, shown in the blue. 78% of our revenue comes from our real estate taxes. We're much less reliant on state aid. Our state aid is shown in the red, is only about 6% of our total revenue. This is a very standard, typical pie chart for a suburban community in Massachusetts. This does, however, present a difficult financing model to work under. Our main source of revenue, the tax base, is restricted by Proposition 2.5. We have to work within that formula, and if we want to try to get additional revenue, we have to balance what does that mean for our tax bill. So each and every year, it's very challenging to put together a comprehensive budget that addresses all of the needs of the community. One thing that does help that financial model is commercial value. Strong commercial value for a town means that our commercial taxpayers are helping pay that tax bill, relieving the burden on our residential homeowners. This line graph shows you the total value, shows you commercial value as a percent of total value in town over a number of years. On the far left of the chart, you can see at one point in the early 90s, commercial value in Westwood represented about 25% of the total town's value. We had a pretty steady decline of that, and in recent years, in FY15, commercial value had dropped to about 12% of total value. The University Station project has helped that. In recent years, with that project coming online, commercial value has increased to about 15% of total value in town. Although it is difficult to maintain this balance as our residential property values are so strong. The commercial value, in fact, pays more than their fair share, in a sense, of taxes. We have in town what's called a split tax rate, where we charge the commercial value at a higher rate than residential. What that means is shown on the pie charts on the bottom. In FY18, our current year, as shown on the left, commercial value represents 15% of total value in town, but they do, in fact, as shown on the right, pay over 25% of the total tax bill. So commercial value is very important as they're paying a significant portion of the total taxes in town. And more importantly, our commercial value also does not participate in some of the more expensive services that the town provides, including school services, our trash pickup, our snow and ice. That split tax rate has a benefit to every homeowner in town. The table on the right shows the tax rates for the current year, with residential $15.09 and commercial $29.30. That results in a tax bill for our median home, shown in the green bar on the left. That home now is valued at about $604,000, is our median home value in town. In the current year, that home has a tax bill of just over $9,100. If we did not have the split tax rate and instead had a single tax rate, which would be about $17.24, that home would pay the bill shown in blue, over $10,421. So without the split tax rate, the average bill would be about $1,300 or 14% higher. So the split tax rate provides a significant benefit to each and every home in town. The University Station project has not only helped us with commercial value, it's also brought direct new tax revenue to town. The table on the top of this slide shows the increase in new tax revenue that we've received each year since the property has come online in FY15. In total, at this point, the increase in total tax revenue, new tax revenue from that project is about $5.3 million. The property before development paid about $2 million in taxes. So right now, there's in total about $7 million a year coming from that property. Before that project came online, our Board of Selectmen, our Finance and Warrant Commission, our Long Range Financial Planning Committee, were all working hard to make sure that when that new revenue came online, that we worked to distribute that to as many areas of the budget as we could. And this is shown on the graph here on the bottom. Some of those areas included direct service costs. We knew that project coming online would have some additional service needs, particularly in the area of public safety and school department. We also knew that we would want to use some of that money to help our operating budgets. As we mentioned, it's very difficult to provide services under Proposition 2.5. We wanted to use some of the money to make sure we could supplement our school and municipal operating budgets without going for overrides. We also wanted to use some of the funding for our capital budget, whether paying directly for capital needs or funding debt service to pay for bond costs for larger capital projects. And we also wanted to use some of that money for tax relief. How could we make sure to use some of that money to help mitigate the growth in the annual residential tax bill? As the money has come online, we have been able to do just as that plan set out. So to look at how we have actually used the University Station money, first, we have used about $2.6 million of that money to supplement our operating budgets, with $1.9 million going to the school budget and about $700,000 to the municipal budget. So what that means is the school budget today is $1.9 million higher than what it would have been without the University Station money. If that University Station money hadn't come, we would have had to reduce the school budget and the corresponding level of service, or we would have had to go to the community for a general override. We have not had a general override in Westwood since 2007, and in most recent years, the University Station money has certainly helped with that. We also have used some of that money to provide for those direct service costs, $1.3 million of the money for that, with about $1.1 million going to the municipal budget and about $215,000 to the school budget. For the municipal budget, that money's been used directly to hire increased staffing in our police and fire departments. And those additional staffing levels have allowed us to service the University Station project, but also improve our level of service in those departments throughout the community. In addition, we have funded capital projects with some of the money. We did a one-time appropriation of $975,000 to our capital stabilization fund, and in a subsequent year's budget, we used about half of that to do the replacement of the turf field at the high school. And we've also used about $800,000 of the money to pay for the debt service costs for the new police station. Again, without the university station money, we would have had to go outside for a debt override for that project. And then finally, we have used a portion of the funds each year to help provide some tax relief to subsidize our bills for all of our residents. The chart on the bottom shows the amount used each year since the project has come online to subsidize the tax bill. It's called unused tax levy. Means that we get new money in from University Station. Instead of spending up to that level and adding to our spending, we instead take that new revenue in and apply it to the current budgets in place, helping to subsidize that cost to all of our residents. Looking at total expenditures tonight for FY19, $98 million, again about a 3% increase over the current year. The pie chart shows how do we break down the spending with what's shown in blue for the school and municipal operating budgets. Again, the most important area of our spending, 67% of our total money goes to providing those annual direct services every year to the community. This is where we would fund our teachers, our police and fire, our DPW staffing. We spend about 6% of the budget on debt service, as shown in red, and about 15% of our budget on our fixed cost benefits category, shown in green. That would include our health insurance costs, pension, payroll taxes for our school and municipal employees. So the most important area of spending is our operating budget. And with that budget, we try each year to provide a stable budget for the school and municipal operations, and we try to provide sustainable budgets for the community. Tonight, the actual articles that you vote, we begin with Articles 1 and 2. Those are actually supplements for the current year FY18 budget, the year that ends June 30th. In these articles, we're transferring from one budget to another to kind of clean up our accounts before year end. Article 1 is about $230,000, Article 2 about $330,000, and most of the items in both of those articles deal with the snow and ice from the activity that we had this winter. Article 3 is where we'll vote that main operating budget, $91 million for the operating budget, about a 3% increase from the current year. The bar graph shows the distribution of that operating budget, with the school budget in blue on the left, about $44 million, the municipal budget in red, $20 million, our fixed cost budget, $14 million in yellow, and the debt service just over $6 million in green. This is a very standard distribution of operating budget costs for a suburban community with a high-performing school system like Westwood. So in town meeting action tonight, Article 3, the FY19 operating budget. When we get to that article, the moderator will ask you to turn to page 46 in your town meeting book, and she will lead you through the discussion of the operating budget. The next series of articles deal with our capital budget. It's important that we continue to maintain and reinvest in our school and municipal buildings, our public safety and DPW equipment, our recreational facilities, and our roadways. Articles 4 through 8 tonight, a series of articles that will deal with the capital budget, with articles for municipal capital, school capital, sewer capital, ambulance capital. We have an Article 7, other capital. Each year for the last several years, we've tried to do additional capital projects beyond our base level, and we will continue to do so tonight. And we'll be funding those additional items with use of free cash and our meals tax revenue. Article 9 is our stabilization account. This is the town's main savings account, very important component of our credit rating. The bar graph shows you the balance in our savings account over a several-year period. You can see on the graph that there was a couple of years where we were able to build up this account to sufficient level with one-time revenue. That's shown in the years with the arrows below, FY12 and FY13. And then since then, we've done each year $100,000 transfer from free cash into the savings account. That's been sufficient to allow us to stay on track with our target levels and our financial policies for our savings account. So we will ask tonight at town meeting for that same action in Article 9 to transfer the $100,000 from free cash to stabilization. Article 10 is funding for our OPEB liability. This is a long-term liability, much like a pension liability, but this is for post-employment health insurance costs. We have made significant progress in recent years on both the revenue and the expense side in dealing with this liability. The bar graph shows you our annual appropriation to the OPEB liability. You can see in the 2 years marked with the arrows, FY13 and FY16, we were able to build into our budget an increase in the annual funding for this account. We are now at a sufficient level of funding at this level each year. It's about $1.4 million a year, keeps us on track with this liability, and this is also an important, dealing with this liability is an important element of our credit rating. So tonight's town meeting action will ask you in Article 10 to appropriate $1.4 million to address the OPEB liability. And then finally, there are 2 borrowing articles tonight. Article 12, the $3.5 million borrowing for the Islington Library and Community Center, and Article 14, $1.75 million in borrowing for the schools to enter that eligibility phase with the Mass School Building Association to start the important work of examining the elementary school buildings. And with borrowing articles, the actual borrowing, the town meeting approves an authorization of an up to limit. Town Treasurer Gavin will actually issue the bond for the article when the funds are needed. And he will only issue a bond for the net amount that is needed. So if the cost of the project comes in less, or if there is revenue that can be applied to the project, in this case for the schools, there may be MSBA payments towards that cost, and for the Islington project, the Islington Development funds would be applied to the cost, and the treasurer would only issue the debt for the net amount. That does conclude our overview of the financial articles. Again, we thank you for coming to town meeting, and as always, the Board of Selectmen thanks you for your time and attention to our town meeting matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dukeman. We are now going to turn to Article 1. Article 1 requires a majority vote. Article 1 is to see if the town will vote to appropriate by transfer from available funds the sum of $236,500 to supplement the following fiscal year 2018 appropriations. Is there any discussion? The Finance and Warrant Commission, this is the first one, so I'm going to test this out. The Finance and Warrant Commission, by unanimous vote of those present, recommends that the town so vote. Is there a second to the Finance Commission's motion? Second. Is there any discussion about Article 1? And again, just to remind folks, if you do want to speak, please do go to one of the standing microphones. I'm not seeing anybody. All those, again, and this is a majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Moving to Article 2, to see if the town will vote by transfer from available funds the sum of $331,000 to supplement the following fiscal year 2018 appropriations. The Finance and Warrant Commission unanimously recommends that the town so vote, and the quantum of vote required is a majority vote. Is there a second to the FinCom's motion? Yes, there is. Is there any discussion about Article 2? Seeing no discussion, we'll call the vote. Again, it's a majority vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Article 3, to see what sums of money the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds and/or borrow for the operation of the municipal departments and public school system for the fiscal year July 1, 2018 through June 30, 2019, as set forth in Appendix D. The way that I will proceed with this is I will take Appendix D page by page. If somebody wants to hold an item for discussion at the end of 46 through 52, we will come back to it. So again, if you want to discuss a particular item in the budget in Appendix D, page by page, just please yell out, go to a standing microphone, that it is a page you want us to hold and go back to for discussion. The quantum of vote required for Article 3 is a majority vote. Is there any discussion about page 46 in Appendix D? I'm not seeing any. Page 47 of Appendix D, any discussion? Again, I'm not seeing any. Page 48 of Appendix D, any discussion? Seeing none. Page 49 of Appendix D, is there any discussion about page 49? Seeing none. Page 50 of Appendix D, is there any discussion about page 50 of Appendix D? Seeing none, moving to page 51 of Appendix D. Is there any discussion about page 51 of Appendix D? Moving to page 52 of Appendix D. Is there any discussion about page 52 of Appendix D? Seeing no discussion, we will go back to the main motion of Article 3. Is there any discussion about Article 3? Hello. Oh, sorry. Please state your name and address.
My name is Rachel Pausner. I live at 162 Mayfair Drive. I have a question. Are we not discussing what's in Appendix E, the school budget, particularly?
We are not discussing what's in Appendix E, the school budget.
Okay.
Oh, for purposes of Article 3, it is Appendix D.
Will we be discussing what's in Appendix E during tonight's discussion?
We will not.
Okay.
Any other questions about Article 3? Any discussion? Any comments? Article 3 comes on the Finance and Warrant Commission's vote by 10 in favor and 1 abstention, recommending that the town vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds and/or borrow for the operation of the municipal departments and public school system for fiscal year July 1, 2018 through July 30, 2019. Is there a second to that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Article 3 passes. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds the sum of $886,900 for purchase, lease, or lease purchase of the following capital equipment and improvements, which I will not read. The Finance and Warrant Commission unanimously votes that the town recommends that the town so vote. Is there a second? Article 4 requires a majority vote. Is there any discussion on Article 4? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Rick Scogan, 236 Dover Road. Just wanted to make one point across several articles. There's a appropriation or request for over $1 million of town vehicles. There is a request for over $400,000 of snow and ice removal. There's also a request for lighting of tennis courts in the town of $300,000. But there's very little in any of the articles around traffic control and, frankly, public safety for pedestrians. I know there was a study about 3-4 years ago. There was a little bit of work done on a few of the streets, such as Conant. I happen to live on Dover Road, which is, as everyone knows here, a cut-through street, very unsafe. I have a very small infant at home. My wife walks the street with my son and is clipped almost once a week. So I know there is an ask for about $100,000 of some traffic study being done tonight, but I would ask that we consider more money being assessed for traffic safety and public safety, frankly.
Thank you, sir. Is there any further discussion about Article 4? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Article 4 passes. Moving to Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds the sum of $867,000 for the purchase, lease, or lease purchase of the following capital equipment and improvements. Coming on the Finance and Warrant Commission's recommendation that the town so vote and requiring a majority vote, is there a second? Is there discussion about Article 5? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Article 5 passes. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds the sum of $420,000 for the purchase, lease, or lease purchase of the following capital equipment. Coming on the Finance and Warrant Commission's motion and recommendation that the town so vote, and requiring a majority vote, is there a second? Is there any discussion about Article 6? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Article 6 passes. Moving to Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds the sum of $857,000 for the purchase, lease, or lease purchase of the following capital equipment. Coming on the Finance and Warrant Commission's unanimous recommendation that the town so vote, and requiring a majority vote, is there a second? Is there discussion about Article 7? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Article 7 passes. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $443,760 for the purchase, lease, or lease purchase of the following capital equipment. Coming on the Finance and Warrant Commission's recommendation that the town so vote, is there a second? Requiring a majority vote, is there discussion about Article 8? Seeing no discussion about Article 8, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Article 8 passes. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds the sum of $100,000 for the stabilization fund. Coming on the Finance and Warrant Commission's unanimous recommendation that the town so vote, and requiring a quantum of vote of 2/3. Is there a second? Is there discussion about Article 9? Seeing no discussion about Article 9, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and it is more than a two-thirds vote in favor of Article 9. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds the sum of $1,415,000 to the OPEB Liability Trust Fund. coming on the Finance and Warrant Commission's recommendation that the town so vote and requiring a majority vote. Is there a second? Is there discussion about Article 10? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Article 10 passes. We are now moving to Article 11, 12, 13, which are related articles. We have a presentation from Michael Walsh, Selectman, and there will be another presentation from Ed McGowan immediately following that presentation, at which point we will put Article 11 on the floor for discussion.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Walsh, on the Board of Selectmen. This is my 4th year on the board. I'm going to give you a presentation, but I'm not here to convince you one way or another. I'm here to give you the facts and the information about where the development has come from and where we are at this point in time, and it's up to you to make the decision. And I think once I give you the information, you'll be able to make that decision. Okay, so we'll start with the first one. This is what we presently have, ladies and gentlemen, the Islington Center area. You can see on the right side and the left side, the brown is what is owned by the town. The blue is what is owned by the developer. That is, as of today, by our right and by his right. That is the property that is being looked to be developed. And so that gives you an idea of where we are today. The next slide will tell you after the development, if it is approved, this is what the ownership of the land will look like in Islington. So you can see the blue is owned by the town, the brown is owned by the town, the blue is owned by Petruzziello, and the yellow is optional because it has the Blue Heart Tavern, of which we may get some land for the Blue Heart Tavern. So that will give you an idea of the change in ownership, and I'll go back once so you can see the difference before and the difference after. And so what's going to take place on the School Street side? This will give you an idea. They will replace Cafe Diva and the Westwood Tailor Shop with a new CVS, which has retail and a pharmacy building. We will relocate Wentworth Hall and construct a new community center with additional office for youth and family services and a lower level, which will be a community space. There will be 72 parking spots on just the CVS side or the Cafe Diva side, 40 spaces for CVS, and 32 for municipal parking spaces. And I will talk further about that in just a few minutes. Also, the road is going to be widened just a little bit, which will allow 6 on-street parking spaces on Washington Street. And so as you look at this, this is the existing side of the School Street side. Is that School Street? Yes. Okay. This is it says East Street side, but anyway. So you can see, from looking at this slide, you can see where the ICC is. That would be the big building over to the far left. And then you have the Wentworth Hall, or what's known as the Islington Library in the middle. And then you have the CVS there. This next slide will show you what is going to happen on the School Street side, on the East Street side, when the development is done. So if this were to pass tonight, this is what what the developer is looking to do on that side. So as you look at it, you see the density is mostly in the middle of the parking lot. And the next slide is the most telling, and I've asked for this one so that everyone can get an idea. This slide actually shows the blue is what is there now, and the yellow is what will be constructed afterwards. So you can see where they overlap and they become green. And if you really look at the blue, you can see that the blue is actually pulled back off the sidewalk and that this new development will be farther back off the sidewalk. You can see where the yellow begins, and if you notice, there's the blue right where the ICC is, and the blue where the Wentworth Hall is. And those are pulled back under the yellow ones. So you will see that it has actually been pulled back from the sidewalk, and it will not be like 321 Washington Street, which is right on the sidewalk. So on the East Street side, we would be replacing the Islington Community Center with a new 3-story building, approximately 13,000 square feet on the ground level of retail commercial space. There'll be 18 condos and 36 underground parking spaces for those condos and for the retail. We will renovate the CVS/Crown Cleaners building and create a new 5,000 square foot lower level for MMO, as it's known, the nursery school, with a new playground. Playground is 40 by 37, and it will construct 52 off-street parking spaces in the ICC area. So 52 on one side, and I will get to the total numbers in just a few minutes. But we're adding 12 spaces on the ICC side. And so if you look right now, this is how the School Street side is actually, it says East Street, but it's the School Street side. You can see the blue building in the corner, that would be Cafe Diva building. The blue building would be the tailor shop. And you can see way in the back, that would be a piece of property which is coming up under Article 13. That is actually a homeowner that has no street frontage whatsoever and actually has an easement for their driveway to get to that property. So those are the 3 properties that are on that side right now. This is what would be constructed if this were to be approved tonight. And again, I asked for this slide so that everyone can see. You can see the blue and the yellow. Sorry. So you can see the blue and the yellow and what would be constructed when it's done. You can see that the CVS building is now replacing a portion of Cafe Diva, but I want you to notice it's been pulled back from the intersection. You see where the Cafe Diva building is now, it's actually pulled back from the sidewalk to make more room for those 6 parking spots and a walkway, a sidewalk there. The yellow buildings that you see to the far right would be the Wentworth Hall, or the ICC building, and you would find a new community space. The second half of or the back half of that would be for Youth and Family Services for their offices, and then you would find 4,000 square feet of community space underneath both the library and the Youth and Family Services. So there would be community space downstairs, which would be able to be subdivided. It would be able to have Youth and Family Services have their events down there and other things that they do now that they presently do in the ICC. They will be able to do that in the new community space downstairs. In addition, the Boy Scouts and whoever else uses it would be able to use that space as well. So this is what presently you see. This is the ICC building, and this is at ground level. This is what the proposed new building would look like according to an architect's rendering at this point in time, which is all we have because it's just a concept, ladies and gentlemen, and until it actually was approved, you can only do so much, and spend so much money to come up with the concept. So this is what it looks like right now, what it would look like afterwards. This is a bird's eye view, if you will, of the ICC, looking down, taken from a drone, to show what the ICC building looks like right now. This is what the proposed development would look like if it was approved. From the bird's eye view again, to give you an idea. This is a ground level view of the ICC as it presently stands right now. You can see the playground is there to the right. You can see the ramp that is allowed for handicapped accessibility to get into the ICC presently. This is a rendering from approximately the same point if this project would be approved. And you'll notice that the parking has been pushed over to the side. There is a green space, and then there is a cafe towards the front of the building. The sidewalk has also been pushed back as well. In case in the future we need to redevelop or widen the intersection, we're going to get that land from the developer to be able to widen that land if necessary at some point in the future. Again, a bird's eye view, which some of you may have seen on other slides or other presentations. You can see the Cafe Diva building. You can see the ICC. You can see the new fire station that has snow. You can still have an idea of when this was taken. This is a rendering from approximately the same view, and it's tough. Obviously, it's tough because this is a rendering of where this would be and approximately the same height. You can see the new CVS building. You can see the ICC building. You can even see where CVS has been renovated and the new space for MMO, and also the Crown Cleaners and the tailor shop at the very end. This is how it presently looks right now. You can see the existing CVS, the Wentworth Hall of the Islington Library, and the ICC building. This is an actual rendering of what it would look like from the developer's architect, and this gives you exactly the same view from approximately the same angle. I'm going to guess this is a little bit higher, but you can see that the Blue Heart Tavern is down here in the corner. You see the new Islington Library with the community space. You see the CVS and the ICC building. And I want you to notice, if you look, ladies and gentlemen, where the density of this project is, it's actually in the middle of what would be considered the Wentworth Hall parking lot area is where the density is located. It's not on the street, and it's not as visible from the street, either from East Street or from Washington Street. Now, I'm here to just try to give you some idea of the facts of where this has gone. I'm sure you've all seen at least one of these in the last couple of days, or most of you have. One of them was in the Hometown Weekly. But I'm here to give you just the facts as they have. I've been involved in this procedure since day one. My job on the Islington, as a selectman, was to stand as the resident/selectman because I happen to live at 47 Phillips Brooks Road. And so let me give you a little idea of how this project began. Back in 1994, they did reconstruction of the intersection. They did some underground utilities and some lighting. The town acquired the former Texaco station, which is now known to those of you who came later, like myself, became the municipal parking lot. Then at some point in time, I think it was 2004, the Islington Church was purchased by the town. They did the redevelopment of the School Street Playground. There was a new Little League complex at Morrison Park and a new Islington Fire Station. Presently, we were reconstructing the East Street Bridge. And consideration right now of where we are for the proposed Islington redevelopment. This property has taken approximately 2.5 years to get to this point. And so I can tell you that my personal understanding of this is, this has been through a long process. And so what I'm going to show you is where we started. And let me just tell you this. I happen to be on the Islington Task Force, and I voted no on most of what you see there first for the original proposals. And this is where we are as we stand before you at town meeting today. The developer originally wanted 28 apartments. Well, we heard from the residents. They were not thrilled with apartments, especially 28. We went back to the developer. He came back. It's now 18 two-bedroom condos. The CVS wanted a drive-through. That was a requirement for all CVSs now, is that they have a drive-through. Well, listening to the neighbors, several times back and forth, the drive-through was eliminated. Took a long conversation with CVS to understand that our neighbors did not want the drive-through. The size of the CVS when they originally wanted it was over 13,000 square feet. It's now down to under 10. It's 9,950. MMO is getting brand new space. The developer has decided to take on the burden of their rent, which is under market value, and put a brand new 5,000 square foot space in the you would consider to be the CVS building by renovating the bottom floor and give them a tot lot as well. There are additional parking spaces that are being added, 15 more than what would be required according to our experts. This is not a number that I made up. This is our experts who have gone back and looked at the numbers and said, we have 15 more that would be required. What's very interesting is, even though this is a private developer who's working, the town is taking an easement on all of the above-ground parking spaces, which means that if you happen to go to Morrison Park and you happen to park in CVS, we have the right to be there as well. So that CVS building and the new mixed-use building would all allow our residents to park there if necessary. New traffic signals, and this is something that I think has been overlooked. There will be new traffic signals, including a left-hand turn from Washington Street onto East Street. So if you're coming down Washington Street, you understand that right now there is no designated left turn, and you kind of take your life in your hands as you try to make that turn. There would be a new light, a dedicated time to turn left onto the East Street. The Islington Branch Library is being renovated, and a new addition for Youth and Family Services. The land is reserved for the Blue Heart Tavern. There'll be new trees installed on East Street and School Street. It's a densely planted buffer zone for fences and screen fences for the abutting lots, especially behind CVS, as you are right now. They're getting a new fence. They're getting a line of trees to protect them from any view they might have at ground level. And the last is probably something that I've probably heard the most about the 40B. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you that we have a denominator in the town which was back to 2010. In 2020, that denominator is going to change. So right now, we would be considered at 10%. But in 2020, based on the building in this town and the new houses that have gone up, the subdivisions, et cetera, we are probably somewhere between 15 and 19, according to our estimates, below where we need to be for our 40B come 2020. So there's another article that you'll hear in just a little while asking for to appropriate money to at least subsidize that. But what this development gives us, if approved, it's going to give us 3 actual affordable housing. But the way that the affordable housing works is that if 25% of that building, and there are 12 units there, so even the lawyer can do the simple math, 3 will give us 20, we get to count all 12 towards that number of 15 to 19. Automatically, if this project goes through, those will be on the books, as the project goes forward before 2020. So I've read, that why can't we get creative? We can't get more creative in getting 12 units when we actually get 3, but that's the law, and we're just following it to the letter as far as the affordable units. So overall, these are other questions that have been brought to our attention, so I thought I would bring them to yours. The total existing ICC floor space is 11,031 square feet. That is the floor area that is usable. The new MMO is getting 5,000 square feet in the new renovated CVS building. And the Wentworth Hall addition will be 6,000 square feet between the time the library is done, the Youth and Family Services is added, and the new community spaces are put downstairs. It's energy efficient, it's handicapped accessible, and far more appealing than trying to fit the ICC church. Parking spaces, and this has obviously become a big issue. There are the numbers, ladies and gentlemen. I don't have to go through them for you. I think you can see. So we're actually gaining 15 more spaces than what's there and what is required by our traffic experts. Another big issue that I don't think anyone quite understands. So this is before and after for the tax revenue. You can see the numbers before and after, and I think the most compelling number is down the bottom. The new tax revenue would be approximately $481,000. Let's just call it 4 for round numbers. If we were to do this, and you'll see how the articles work, it would take us approximately 4 years to get back the tax investment or the funding that we'd have to put forward. Approximately 4 years is all it would take to get back the 1.5 that the town would have to come up with. If you do it based on the revenue that we get now, we're talking about 30 years or so, perhaps even higher. I think 68 was what I heard on one number, that it could take that long based on the tax revenue that we now get on those Islington properties. So this becomes a more telling issue. You can see that 2.2 is what the developer has offered for a ½ acre of land. And that's on the East Street side. You can see the RFP was asking for 1.95 on East Street, which shows us about 2.296512 per acre. We're getting 2.2 for a ½ acre of land. The comparisons are down the bottom. So you can see, based on other properties that have been sold in town, what they are getting per acre. The highest one being Brigham Women's Hospital at 1.3. That was per acre. We're getting 2.2 for a half acre in Islington. So the project is going to be phased. It's not going to all happen tomorrow. And this is an outline of the phases. You can see that phase one.
Selectman Walsh, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I've been told by the fire chief that I need to make this announcement. And this is my bad. I was supposed to make this announcement at the beginning of the town meeting, and I forgot. So number one, anybody who's standing in the back needs to take a seat. And we will have to stop town meeting until you are seated. There are plenty of seats in front, and there are plenty of seats to the sides. As you are getting seated, I am going to read the town meeting crowd control policy. Aisles must be kept clear and unobstructed at all times. No sitting or standing is permitted in aisles or pathways to exit. Exits must be clear and unobstructed at all times. Exits are located in the four corners of the gym. Please take a moment to find the exit closest to you. Remember, the closest exit may not be the door that you entered. In the event of an emergency or if the fire alarm sounds, all attendees must evacuate from the building. Attendees should not re-enter the building until advised to do so. Members of the Westwood Police and Fire Departments are present during this town meeting in the event of an emergency or if you require assistance. If, in the opinion of public safety personnel, the maximum capacity of the gym is exceeded, town meeting will be stopped until proper seating limits are restored. I do apologize for not making that announcement at the very beginning. It may have been an opportunity for you to chat with your neighbor. Sorry, Selectman Walsh, for interrupting your presentation. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm not going to go through each one, but you can see in phase one, the developer is giving the town $400,000. So we'll use that money to design the new community space, the new youth and family services, and to design a new building and to take whatever steps are necessary to begin the process. The developer would then start to construct CVS. That would be the first phase, that corner where Cafe Diva is, the tailor shop. They would move that Blue Heart Tavern, and they would begin construction there. So the town gets $400,000 up front. We would just be transferring the land of the municipal parking lot over, which when it gets done, we'll have a brand new municipal parking lot paid for by the developer. Phase two, we receive another $400,000 from the developer. And this phase is where the town really has to start to move. We will move Wentworth Hall across the street on a new foundation. We will add a separate building for youth and family services attached to the library. And they would then move the CVS build. They would renovate the CVS building and create the new space for MMO. So at this point in time, we are at $800,000. The final phase would be we would receive 1.4 from the developer. MMO would move into its new space in the library. Youth and family services would move in. The rec department would move in into all their new spaces. And the developer would then do the third phase. The town issues a bond for the net worth, the net cost of redoing this work at approximately 1.4, even if you call it 1.5. So the article that you're asked to vote on is the land disposition, which is allowing us to transfer the land to the developer for certain phases at certain times. I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we have done a land development agreement, which gives the town certain rights if the economy were to change and this project doesn't go forward. So if it takes until phase 3 and the market drops out of condos or whatever, we'll probably be back at the table, but we still will maintain that land until phase 3. I won't go through the article line by line, but you can see that it does ask basically to be able to accomplish all of that in Article 11. Article 12 is basically the asking to borrow the money up to 3.5, of which we will get back 2.2 from the developer, and the town would fund the rest, but based on the tax revenue, it would take us approximately 3 to 4 years to be able to get back our investment with brand new space, energy efficient, handicapped accessible, and get our municipal parking lot back. What I would like to say, ladies and gentlemen, is and I went through it earlier, that when this project begins, we own approximately 1.4 total area in Islington. The developer has bought certain other parcels. By the time this is done, we are getting back 0.89, if you will, in acreage. And we're essentially selling the ICC spot and where the Wentworth Hall is for $2.2 million. We're getting back the same amount of parking space and on the other side of the street with a brand new building. I think I've given you as much information as I can, but I do want to let you know. So inventing this, ladies and gentlemen, this has been in front of every board possible in town, from the planning board, the Board of Selectmen, obviously, the Conservation Commission, the Islington Task Force, the MMO Board of Directors, the Library Trustees, and the Youth and Family Services. So this has been in front of every board who has decided that this is in the best interest of the town. I'm going to stop at this point in time on my presentation. I will be, and I'm sure you'll have questions afterwards, but I understand we do have someone else who would like to provide a different perspective. But, Madam Chair?
Thank you very much. And now I would like to ask Ed McGowan to come forward. Please state your name and address for the record. And Christine will tee up your presentation.
Thank you. Name Ed McGowan. I live at 20 Carrier Farm Road.
You do need to speak right into the microphone.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now? All right, much better. Name is Ed McGowan. I live at 20 Carrier Farm Road. Live there with my wife and 4 kids. 3 of them are at the Downey School. 1 is at the middle school. I grew up in Westwood on the other side of town, on Magnolia Drive, where my parents still live today. I'm a Westwood High graduate of class of 1989. My wife is also a graduate of Westwood High School, and she still lives, her dad still lives in the house that she grew up in. As professional background, just as an introduction, I'm a CPA. I started my career in public accounting at what was then known as the Big Six. And for the past 18 years, I've been part of the executive leadership team who's helped a small startup that was formed out of MIT about 19 years ago go on to be one of Massachusetts' largest and most successful technology companies with over $2.5 billion in sales and over 7,000 employees around the world. I've held leadership positions in finance, operations, strategy, corporate development, and I currently run a large global sales organization. So I guess the question is, why am I here? Well, a group of neighbors and friends with a diverse set of professional and educational backgrounds got together and had a debate. We discussed, is this a good deal for the town or not? We looked at publicly available information, much of which you just saw displayed by Mike here on the past presentation. Some of us attended town meetings. We ran numbers. We debated the benefits of the additional revenue versus the costs and risks of doing this deal. We considered the impact to the community, and we concluded, in our opinion, that this was not in the best interest of the town. So tonight I am acting as the voice of this group. I want to thank Alice Moore and the town officials for giving me the opportunity to speak in front of you tonight. After all, allowing a debate where each side of the issue can voice their opinion and ultimately let the people decide is what makes this country great. We can agree or disagree on this issue or any issue, but it's important to remember that we are all one Westwood community. I know one thing for sure, we all want what's best for the community, but we won't always agree on the best way to get there. To start, this collective group agreed that we are not anti-development. As a matter of fact, we'd love to see more development projects, but ones that make sense. Our primary concern is we don't believe this particular deal is in the best interest for Westwood. And I'll spend a few minutes walking you through how we arrived at this conclusion. First, what we did is we wanted to get an understanding and get grounded in the process. As every deal takes twists and turns, we wanted to understand where did we begin and where are we today. So what we did is we started with the original RFP, the request for proposal, to understand what the goal of the project was and how this deal compares to the original RFP. In the original RFP, the town was looking to lease or sell up to 4 parcels of Islington Center at a minimum bid requirement of $2.575 million for the redevelopment of Islington Center. Next we looked at the original RFP response, which was received from Petrozzullo Construction in June of 2016. That initial offering, as Mr. Walsh explained, he turned down, was for an offer of $3.3 million in non-cash services. Those services would include the renovation of both the Blue Hart Tavern and the Wentworth Hall, including the addition of a sizable addition to the existing structure. Basically, in this case, the developer would take on all the risks and costs of the projects in exchange for the parcels of land. In exchange, we would also build residential apartments on part of that land, along with some retail space. Finally, we looked at what's up for vote tonight, the land distribution agreement dated May 4th, 2018, which is the last draft agreement between the town and the developer. As we discussed, the current deal, as we understand
Hold on
it,
1 second. So you might even just take the microphone and put it.
Okay, is this better?
Yeah.
I apologize, and I will slow down. Okay. Okay. The last comment. So finally, we looked at the land distribution agreement, which was dated May 4th, 2018, which is the latest draft agreement between the developer and the town. As we understand it, the current deal stands today. It includes a $2.2 million cash consideration to the town, payable over 3 installments, for the transfer of some land. In exchange for that consideration, the developer will receive the 4 parcels of land and the ability to develop some retail space and 18 condos. So what we did is we looked at what is the value of what we're giving up and what are we getting back in return. Also included in this, the redevelopment of the library, which now includes moving the library across the street, and the new community center, along with the site work required, is now the responsibility of the town. And that estimated cost is $3.5 million. So as we began to dig into the current draft agreement and think about the economics, the risks, the impact on the community, we became very concerned. And our concerns are as follows. In our opinion, we're not being fairly compensated for what we're giving up. In this deal, we're giving up approximately 60,000 square feet of valuable land, a community center, an $85,000 a year paying tenant, some office space, and a future option. The future option of what we could do with that land if we chose to do something in the future. In addition, we're taking on the risk of a $3.5 million development project. In exchange, we're getting $2.2 million and approximately 40,000 square feet of land, of which about 10,000 is wetlands and not buildable. So the way we looked at it is we're giving up about 60,000 of buildable or usable land and getting about half in return. We don't think that's enough. The other main concern we had was that we believe the taxpayers aren't taking on too much risk with this development project. While the town has gone out and received an estimate from PM&C Consulting in February of 2018 for $3.5 million, we worry that that may not be enough. And we break it down into 3 primary concerns. The first is the site work. As you heard earlier, part of the project that's being developed is on an old gas station. So we don't know what's under that land, and while the estimate has, well, the original estimate has an estimate for the site work, that could be significantly greater than what we have anticipated. The second thing is we're taking on a new construction project. We'll be building a community center. We haven't had a great track record of coming in on budget on some of our big projects. And the third thing is we're taking a 100-plus-year-old structure, the library, picking it up and moving it across the street. That in itself has some risk because what happens if something goes wrong? Well, that's on us. The other thing that we looked at was the valuation and said that in the assessments that were done by the town, it was an assessment done by Buckland Associates in April 30th of 2018, where the value of the buildings were not included. We as a group found this a little odd. We said, how would we consider if someone came to buy our house and it was a developer and we said the house is for sale for $1 million, say, just pick a round number. And the developer said, well, I want to tear your house down. So all I'm willing to do is pay for the land. I'll give you $700 for the land. We would say no, because we would look at it and say, you know what, there's other alternative values there. That structure has a value whether the buyer believes it does or not. We could rent our house, we could sell it to someone else, or we could just decide to stay there. The other thing with this particular building that we're giving up, it actually has a business in it. And traditional valuation methods would tell you that you would run a discounted cash flow value to see what is that business actually worth. Another interesting fact that we came across was it came to the values of the building is if I look at the town of Westwood capital improvement plan for fiscal 2019 and 2023, on page 205, we discovered that the replacement value of the ICC building was insured for $3 million in July of 2017. Now, there may be a good reason for that, but we just found it interesting that you would value a building for $3 million in an insurance plan, but you would consider it to have no value in a transaction. The land swaps are not equal. I think I've addressed this point many times. We're giving up 60, getting back 30, about half. The town also fronts the $2.2 million. We're getting it, as Mike described, over three phases, which basically accounts to an interest-free loan, and we also take on additional risk. What happens if something happens to the financial situation of the builder? What if the economy changes? Well, that risk would be on us. We also discussed if we were to sell our homes again, using that as a similar analogy. Would we sell it and ask the buyer not to come to the closing without the full consideration? So we said, well, why would we do the same thing here when we're selling our own valuable assets? As I mentioned, the town is losing a paying tenant, and that tenant now becomes a tenant of the developer. So again, we're giving up something and not getting an equal value back in return. The town loses valuable office space. And to be fair, my slide says 12,000 square feet, but we're getting about 8,000 feet back, so let's call it a quarter. So again, we're giving up something and getting less back. A few of the non-financial concerns we had, one is the size and scale. If you look at the firehouse, a beautiful building, but it's roughly 12,000 square feet. This building that's being constructed will have about 13,000 square feet of ground space with another 2 floors of roughly 13,000 each, which is roughly 3 times the size of the firehouse. And then finally, traffic. Traffic has always been a problem in Islington, and it's only going to get worse by doing this project. We can debate the degree, but when you add in new businesses and residences to an already congested street, it's going to get worse. Finally, we debated the primary benefit of this transaction, which is the increase in additional tax revenue. I actually have the same number in my talking points as Mike mentioned earlier, which is about $400,000 net. And we looked at it and said, you know, for less than 1/4 of 1%, or 1/2 of 1%, excuse me, of the roughly $98 million budget that we have, is it worth taking all of the risk and getting the consideration back that we are for this project? And we concluded it wasn't, in our opinion. A couple of other things we discussed. One is the impact on the community. You can see here by the statistics behind me that we're a very fast-growing town. And any time that you add new members to the community, you have to take into consideration the stress it puts on the school system, some of which are very crowded today, as well as the impact on the fire and police. So we took that into consideration. We discussed how we were doing as a town, how were we ranked. I was a little surprised when I first saw this. I recall being a kid, always being in the top, whether it was in schools or most desirable towns. And we asked ourselves the question, is this project going to help this or not? And our opinion was, it won't. 40B, we discussed 40B. What is the potential risk of an unfriendly 40B development coming to our town? No matter what side of the vote you are on tonight, we all agree we don't want to be in a situation where we end up with a project that looks like what's in Needham that look on the side of 128. According to the last numbers that we've seen from the town, we are over 10% today, and the next time we would have a 40B evaluation is 2020. Well, we do pick up some affordable units as part of this deal. We're also adding 18 more non-affordable units. And we concluded that while this does help, it is not a silver bullet and does not take the future 40B risk off the table. Finally, what happens if we say no? I know we debated, could the developer go out and just build whatever he wants on the property? And what our understanding is that he does not have the right to do that. He would require a permit and a 4/5 majority vote from the planning board. Also, could another developer come in under 40B and take it and put up another development? And as I mentioned earlier, we're over 10% today, and we're not at risk until 2020, so we have time to come up with some creative solutions to make that not an issue. Now, I'll close with a couple of pictures. I know we all think that Islington Center is not the prettiest, but every once in a while it has its days. And finally, the renderings. I think you'll see these, we're both showing these here. The first is the rendering. I think this is sort of a metaphor for how you view this. The people will ultimately decide which picture do you want, which picture do you believe in terms of the financials and what this will actually look like in terms of traffic, the structure itself, and is this a good deal for the community or not. Again, I thank Alice and the town officials for giving me the opportunity to speak. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you so that we please reserve your applause. We do want to get through this town meeting, and we will need to do so with order. And so at the beginning, I said to you, we won't have any applause, booing, or please, let's move forward. So to return to Article 11, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take the following actions in conjunction with the acquisition and disposition of certain parcels of land. And that is A through E. The Finance and Warrant Commission, by a vote of 10 in favor and 1 abstention, recommends that the town so vote. And Article 11 does require a 2/3 vote. Is there a second? Is there discussion about Article 11? And if there is significant discussion, I'm going to ask folks to go to the standing microphones and wait to be acknowledged. Yes, sir.
My name is Raymond Aglagub, and I'm from 14 Ford Place. Many of my points have been touched upon, so I will try and run through them briefly. So I am voting no for Articles 11, 12, and 13 for the following reasons. I'm concerned about the impact on the school district. The town has already identified the Hanlon Elementary School District as the one in greatest need of improvements to its buildings. So it seems to me that it works at cross purposes to the effort to be talked about later tonight to approve a feasibility study for the Hanlon School Building. It seems to work at cross purposes to be adding 18 units to that very same school district. I'm concerned about the need for affordable housing units has been greatly overstated. As mentioned before, we are currently over the 10% threshold. We're actually at 10.7% according to the September 2017 statement from the subsidized housing inventory. That puts us 1% over the 9.7%, which is the Massachusetts average, and well over the percentages of peer communities like Norwood, Walpole, Wellesley, and Dover. I'm concerned that the opportunity for simply keeping and renovating these buildings is being overlooked. According to the proposal, as mentioned before, the town would need to appropriate $3.5 million towards this development. It also states in that same proposal that the cost for doing renovations would average $3.7 million, those doing while keeping our assets. So it seems to me that it's a strange maneuver to spend about the same amount of money but give up our assets. I'm concerned that the financial return for the town is far too muted to justify selling these assets. The projected net increase in tax revenue is only 0.4% of the FY19 projected budget revenue of $99 million. Considering the drastic and potentially negative ramifications posed by this project, I would hope for a far greater return. I'm concerned that the town's assets are far more valuable than the $1.385 million assessed for these lots, and that there ought to be a better deal than the $2.2 million offered. It doubly concerns me that there was only one response garnered for the initial RFP, and that hence there is no competing offers that would maximize the town's return.
Thank you.
And sorry, I'll just wrap it up. A vote for no is a vote to protect the opportunity cost of selling these town assets and to generate a better deal and plan for improving the Islington community. This is not a do-or-die proposal. We should not feel pressured to move now for fear of no options ever again, and we put ourselves at tremendous risk by making such a panicked move as accepting this proposal. I am voting for patience. I'm voting for pragmatism. I'm voting for better prospects for Westwood, and hence I'm voting no on these articles, and I implore you to do the same.
Please hold your applause. I will stop the town meeting. We need to keep going here. Sir, over here to the left, please state your name and address.
Yes, good evening, John Harding, 148 Forbes Road. I'm very concerned about the mention of environmental contamination on the site. I'm an environmental attorney in Boston. I deal with this every day. And from Mr. McGowan's presentation, it sounds as though neither the town, the developer, nor anyone else actually knows what's under that site. And until there's been thorough testing to determine what is there, what is going to be required, what Department of Environmental Protection will require, it would be totally foolish to approve this project. Whether you sell the property or not under 21E, if you have ever owned it, you can be stuck with it. And for those of you who may ride the commuter rail every day into town, you go by a building, the Boston Renaissance Charter School in Hyde Park. It sits on a little spit of a brook called Mother Brook. And I was involved in cases involving that cleanup, which required a 6-week trial in federal court, and a strip of bank land that is less than a quarter of a mile required a $50 million cleanup. So even the concept that you would approve this without knowing what you have to do from an environmental perspective is incredibly foolish and could far outstrip any potential tax benefit. Thank you.
So I do believe that some of the points that were raised would need a response, and I recognize Dan Bailey. Please state your name and address.
I'm going to do this. Dan Bailey, 29 Martingale Lane. I am special town counsel to the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board on this project, and I've been working on it for over a year. And I'd like to respond specifically to Mr. Harding's comments. For starters, I'm also an environmental and land use lawyer in Boston. I practiced in the area for 30 years, and Mr. Harding is absolutely correct. You can run into disasters if you don't do your homework. That's why this April, March and April, we hired a very well-recognized environmental consultant, Sanborn Head and Associates, to go out and test this property and evaluate the cost, potential cost of soil removal, because the proposal is to excavate quite a bit of soil. They came back with a worst-case scenario of approximately $100,000 for soil removal. I'd also like to say that when the town bought this property back in 1994 or so from Texaco, Texaco had an obligation to clean up the property. They did so in accordance with all regulatory requirements, and some years after that, filed all the paperwork with the Department of Environmental Protection, certifying that the property met what's called a permanent solution. That means that there is no risk to human health, safety, or the welfare. So we've done our homework on this one. We know what the issues are. It's not one to be afraid of.
Next, these folks over here to my left have been waiting, so I'm going to take the next person and then I'll circulate around.
Hi, Bill DeLay, 148 School Street. I hope tomorrow we'll all be friends, but anyway, for now, we should really be upset with town management.
Sir,
yes.
Sir, I'm going to stop you right there.
Yeah.
We are not personalizing. We are
I'm
not
not
criticizing. We're speaking to the facts.
I am. This deal has been tailored to fit the needs of the developer, not the residents of Westwood. Think about it. This property is very valuable Westwood property that you, the residents of Westwood, own. If this deal goes through, you don't own it anymore. It may look pretty, but you won't own those pretty buildings. We lose future control of this area forever. We can now rehab the buildings to fit our needs for the good of all Westwood residents. I was just in Lexington this past week, and they showed me a piece of property that Lexington just bought. They paid $8 million for a piece of land that isn't as visible as this particular piece of land that we have. And they're doing $3 million worth of temporary repairs. And they're going to go on from there. Just to give you an idea how much really I think our property is worth. So we need to be careful. We don't need to embrace this particular deal. We need to vote no, and keep our property, and we should rehab it to our best needs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to take one person over here.
Marla Schwartz, 32 Westwood Glen Road.
You need to speak directly into the microphone, please.
Marla Schwartz, 32 Westwood Glen Road, and I have a question, and I have 2 comments. My question is, what is going to be affordable housing in these 18 units? What will constitute affordable housing in an expensive condo project?
And why don't you say your 2 comments, and then we can see
Okay,
if somebody wants to address
my
it.
first comment is that Westwood Glen had a considerable amount of affordable rental, and that's all gone. Most of the people there who had those affordable units have moved out. The property has gone away from HUD, and I think I'm the only person there who's got an affordable unit now. My other comment is that, you know, towns have to grow or they die.
Mrs. Schwartz, you need to speak into
Okay,
the
sir.
microphone so that folks can hear you.
Towns have to grow or they die. If they don't grow, then people don't want to live there. And my other comment, as I said, is that I live in Westwood Glen, and Westwood Glen used to be a considerable amount of affordable housing, and when the new owner bought it, he took it off of HUD, and it is no longer affordable housing. I think that I may be the last person there, or the last one of 2 or 3, who gets the affordable housing subsidy. So
Okay.
if you're counting Westwood Glen as part of your affordable subsidy, you're way below 10%.
Thank you, Mrs. Schwartz. Over here, please state your name and address.
My name is Joe Layden. I live at 136 School Street in Westwood.
Sorry, I won't forget about you back there, but
Joe Layden, and I live at 136 School Street. Before I start, I have a couple of questions from the presentation. The 1240B units that we're picking up, will they be in perpetuity, or are they at the whim of whoever the owner of the building is in the future? One of the slides showed a great concentration of ownership, and I know that many of you remember when the prior owner painted everything yellow because he was dissatisfied. And we're now looking at the second project from this individual, and I just wonder if it's going to be a sequence of projects and that concentration of ownership is going to get worse and worse. And lastly, I am using tax figures that I got from the developer's information literature. He had $424,000 worth of taxes, $323,000 of which is new, as opposed to Mr. Walsh's presentation of $481, and I have no idea which is correct, but I'm going to use my lower figure. I'm a 49-year resident. This is the first time I've spoken at town meeting, but I felt compelled by what I see as a flawed process which may lead to a costly choice. In May 2016, the town issued an RFP. Predictably, the developer was the sole responder. His response offered not cash, but 3 buildings worth $3.3 million, which would preserve and improve our library and community space. We were to have access to his parking areas, and he would acquire most town land in Islington. After 2 years of meetings and negotiations, that offer has decreased to $2.2 million of cash. We retain a portion of our land, but must spend $3.5 million for an improved library community building and $800,000 for a new parking lot, the Cohen property. That represents a negative swing of $5.4 million, to which we must add financing cost. You would think that a $5.4 million decrease would kill any proposal. The town officials are so anxious for a deal and the benefits they envision that they brought choice to this meeting. Only this meeting can kill this proposal and send us forward to find a mutually beneficial solution. We have 5 years before needed repairs will be made to the ICC, as long as hope for a new deal is possible. First, we must start by fairly evaluating our land instead of letting that value be the last issue to be resolved. We used inappropriate comps and a main appraiser to determine value. We never appraised the wetlands or Cohen property, we are acquiring on School Street. To determine a true price, relevant comparative transactions both involve the developer. There's two real comps that we haven't looked at yet. The first is his purchase of the Magaletta properties at $60 per square foot. Secondly, his acquisition of the Purple House at 323 Washington Street. The developer needed that unique property for its location to construct his $2.5 million mixed-use building. He paid $69 a square foot for that property, 33% more than we are getting in this deal. If we vote yes tonight, we give the developer a $1.5 million gift. Revenue estimates for this project have fallen consistently and dramatically by 42%, from $727,000 in January 18 to $424,000 now. 323 of that is new tax revenue. This project contains 3 buildings, 2 of which produce significant revenues for the town. The third, the new mixed-use building, produces little or no revenue depending on financing. It provides no help with our affordable housing ratio and our commercial residential tax base ratio. The 39,000 square feet, despite cosmetics, is out of scale with the village. It is this building that necessitates our spending $4.3 million. In summary, this is a bad deal for Westwood. The $2.2 million we received is simply the conversion of our land into cash. We only end up with properties we wish to pay for plus some unusable wetlands. We can do better, and your no vote can start that process. Thank you.
There have been a couple of questions asked. I'm not sure whether anybody wants to respond at this time or whether we should continue to proceed. Selectman Hickey.
Thank you. As to the specific question about the affordable units that would be part of the Islington development, they would be deed restricted. The town for many years in each of these developments has required that there be an amount of affordable housing that is deed restricted. At one point in time, within the past few years, Westwood was at 13%. But because the speaker earlier mentioned, we lost 130 units of affordable housing that in the 70s or 80s had not been deed restricted. And the developer, by right, could remove that restriction. That is what has put us into peril with our subsidized housing inventory percentage.
Yes, in the back. Please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is John McDonald. I live at 35 Ash Street in Islington. I'm also a candidate for state rep for this area. I live in Islington with my family. I appreciate the upgrades, the recent upgrades to the sidewalks, streets, fire station, and storefronts. However, I feel this development will forever change the small-town atmosphere we've always enjoyed. I'm also very concerned that the additional business and residential units will further congest Islington Center. It's time for Westwood to listen to the local residents of Islington rather than continue the overdevelopment that is changing the character of our town. Thank you.
Yes, over here.
David Russell, 23 Highview Street. I just have a question if anybody could answer. Does anyone know anything about the, is it Petrozello development, their record in doing right by other towns that they've worked with, and whether they've got a good track record of following through and keeping up their end of deals in other situations?
Selectman Hickey.
I think what we can safely say is that they're a local company. We have no reason to believe they don't operate in an ethical manner. And I think what's really important to recognize, too, is that throughout this very lengthy process that began in early 2016, the developer has attempted to mitigate all of the concerns that were brought to his attention. So when this project started, there was a sense that people wanted one-bedroom apartments. And when we were told that people didn't want apartments, we want condos, he switched to condos. When his initial renderings of the buildings were met with unhappiness, he was willing to change them. There have been iteration after iteration after iteration. And when the drive-through at CVS became a burning point, he withdrew the drive-through. When the size of CVS became a burning point, he reduced the size. So I think that for a process that involves a bargain, every time the town has asked for a move, he has agreed. So what I would say about him and the way he operates, we have been pleased. And again, he's a local company. We have no reason to believe that we would not continue to operate in a professional and ethical manner.
Thank you.
Oh, right, okay. Sorry. And the buildings that he has already renovated in Islington Center have been met with, approval. I get comments all the time that people view it as an improvement. Throughout that process, he did everything that the town asked of him.
Yes, in the back here.
Claire Galkowski, 320 Dover Road. My questions may pertain to Article 12 rather than 11, but I think now would be the time to ask. First, some comments. There are some positives about this from an environmental perspective. There is restoration of wetlands that will be happening in an area behind the, on the School Street side, which I've been to a number of meetings and was rather happy to see. My concern is that whenever you build larger buildings in town, you have a larger footprint environmentally, and when they're a town building, they also cost more to run. The library being a case in point, when we moved from the old library to the new library, the electric bills went up by about a factor of 4, I understand. So I would expect that some enlargements of the buildings in this project would also result in some increases in energy use. And, but I also see a huge opportunity because looking at the bird's eye view, there's an awful lot of clear roof space that, that gets a lot of solar energy that could offset some of the electric costs as well as the carbon pollution that always comes from the construction of larger buildings. My question is it the intention of the town and the developer to make use of that roof space to produce renewable energy rather than running it on conventional fuel?
Selectman Walsh.
Thank you. It is, and as you can tell from the design, it's kind of built in a fashion that is a possibility for the future. The way that the CVS roof is designed in the mixed-use building, it is designed and set up in the way that so that solar energy can be utilized in the future. So it has been already discussed and drawn into the plans as well.
Yes, over here.
Thank you. Hi, I'm John Rogers. I live at 35 Wentworth Street in Islington. I'm a professional engineer who's worked on infrastructure, asset management for decades, and I'm chair of Westwood's Conservation Commission. My wife and I chose Islington for our family shortly after my mom died in 2012, and we returned to Westwood to help my dad with the family home on Clapboard Tree Street where I grew up. The Islington Center redevelopment project deserves yes votes at this meeting. The benefits to the town of Islington, or the town and Islington, are significant and real right now, with all the points well presented in the various materials sent to us all, and supported by very deliberate and deliberative review by a number of people, study and negotiation over 2+ years. We also have, to the question that was asked a few moments ago, an unusual test drive of this developer with his recent successful redevelopment of one of the 4 corners of Islington Center. And with all due respect to those who think otherwise, the vast majority of reasons given to vote no are at least based on suppositions and speculation, and does have a sentiment of not wanting change, and change will occur, if only in far more haphazard ways, and primarily aimed at preventing the former church, the library in Wentworth Hall, the Blue Heart Tavern, the public parking area from falling apart while they continue to serve us poorly, cost money to maintain, and will all need to be substantially updated in the future. Realistically, it is really hard to imagine getting anything in the foreseeable future that would be close to the benefits of this project that it will provide, and very easy to simply see what we likely continue to get by seeing what we now have. That's not good. I'm grateful for the tremendous efforts by members of town staff, the task force, board, selectmen, the developer, and the various professionals over the past couple of years this public process has taken, and in no way to discount their substantial efforts and results. The benefits to wetlands and stormwater, which was mentioned earlier, that will come about through this project, are substantial and positive, and are also due to the Conservation Commission's authority provided through the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and regulations, our own town wetlands bylaw and stormwater bylaws, and those ensured the reduction in the size of the proposed CVS and elimination of the drive-through. So again, I just ask and urge all to please vote yes for Islington Center and for the many benefits it will provide to Westwood and to my family and neighbors in Islington. Let's not squander this opportunity. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration, attendance at tonight's town meeting, tremendous turnout, and yes votes on Articles 11, 12, and 13. Thank you.
Yes, over here.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Curtin, and I live at 144 Church Street. I have a background in retail real estate, ground-up development, redevelopment, as an asset manager and tenant coordinator for the past over 20 years experience in that industry. Also in residential, although we do sell off residential pieces, my company. I have some concerns about this, but at the same time appreciate your hard work and diligence in focusing on this project. I'd like to know what the results and where we can find them are on the Phase 1 subsurface investigation involving that gas station, allegedly. I've been told that there was one at one point, and if there are any environmental concerns. I think that sentiment is also shared by several other people. Sanborn Head and Associates is not a company that I'm familiar with, and I'd like to know from where they come and for how long they've been in business. The other thing that concerns me is parking. I would like to know the developer, does this company have retail real estate experience, and have they completed any kind of a merchandising plan for the ground floor retail, not obviously the residential portion of the project? Because that matters. You have to have a certain ratio of parking spot, like you know. What are the needs and wants of the Islington community and our whole community in terms of possibly restaurants and other social places to meet? I think that's extremely important, and it's impossible to predict what kind of parking you're really going to need. Does the developer have an architect on staff? Is he designing his own renderings, measurements? Also, what do we get back, aside from the money issues that are obviously extremely important, a return on our investment, et cetera, what as a town do we get back from this project in general that can benefit our children and everyone in the community? For example, those of us with children, we lack field space, et cetera, like a multi-purpose field, sports athletic facilities, additional space for possibly play rehearsals, music, you know, any kind of recreational event center for practices and so on when other things are booked. Why relocate and expand a CVS with a new one down the road with with one that's pretty much brand new down the road on Providence Highway. And will this be a 24-hour CVS and with a drive-through? Does anybody know the answer?
So you've asked, there is
drive-through.
no drive-through. So
Okay.
are there, does anyone want to answer? You've asked a lot of questions, so.
I know, but I'm just opening
Do-
it up
do you
for
wanna-
people to think about.
Do you want to summarize where you are so that we can
I think my
get
summary,
answers?
giving up all my other questions, there are other options for creating additional housing, Autumn Drive possibly being one of them, University Station. What my summary and thoughts are is that tonight's vote is premature. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There are a lot of questions out there. Is there anybody who wants to answer them? Quickly, please, so that we can keep moving here.
I'll take the environmental one, and it's quick. Sanborn Head and Associates is a firm located in Westford, Massachusetts. They also have an office in Boston. Just last week, I attended their 25th anniversary party. They've been around for a long time. They're extremely reputable. They work with some of the best-known retailers and developers in Massachusetts, including New England Development and National Development. In fact, they did all of the environmental work that was done at University Station on behalf of New England Development. I personally know them and work with them on probably a half dozen different sites, and I think they're great. I'd also like to emphasize that the report, and their report can be found online, I think it's dated it's around April 30th. They went out, they took several soil borings. They found one exceedance of Massachusetts regulatory standards, and that was for something called benzo A pyrene. And the regulatory standard for that is 2 milligrams per kilogram. They found 2.2 milligrams per kilogram. That was the only exceedance of any environmental contamination on the site. This site is not an environmental issue. And yeah, Mike just reminded me, what is benzo A pyrene? It's a product of ash. You know, these old sites were frequently filled with coal ash and similar materials. Thank you.
Ms. Loughnane, please state your name and address.
Nora Loughnane, 74 Sterling Road. I'll try to address some of the other questions. To begin with, one of the questions was, does the developer have any experience in development, especially retail development and mixed-use development? Yes, he does. Petruzziello Properties has developed several other properties. There's several mixed-use properties with residential and retail, including restaurants, that we're looking for in this project in Dedham, and he also owns commercial property in Medfield. Another question was about the architect. The architect is Mike McKay. Mike has done other projects in Westwood, both commercial and residential, and has done significant development throughout the New England area. You asked several questions about the design of the project. The Planning Board and the Conservation Commission reviewed this thoroughly. The project began with a review by the Islington Center Task Force that went on for approximately 9 months. That board reviewed all aspects of an early concept plan. Once that concept plan reached the point where the Islington Task Force recommended approval to the selectmen reviewed the plan and authorized the developer to submit an application to the Planning Board. The developer did that, and the Planning Board reviewed that application at 6 separate public hearings, all with significant public input. The application was reviewed not only by the Planning Board members, but by peer review consultants with expertise in engineering, traffic engineering, stormwater engineering, and an expert in architecture. In every application portion, the peer review recommended in favor of the project, and the Planning Board also recommended in favor and granted a special permit for the project that you see before you. So if town meeting votes in favor of these 3 articles, the project already has a special permit that's subject to that approval, and it can go forward with the first phase beginning as early as this fall. Just try and get a couple more points that you brought up. Question, what do we get for the money? First, to say what we get for the money, let me just clarify. There have been a lot of numbers that have been thrown out. I want to explain exactly what it is. What the town is doing is selling a total of 0.61 acres to a developer for $2.2 million. Selectman Walsh had a slide up before that showed values of land in Westwood, so you could look at the comparison of that amount to other properties in Westwood. It is far and above, well beyond the value of any property in Westwood, including the most expensive commercial properties, Target, and the recent sale of Brigham and Women's. $2.2 million for 0.61 acres amounts to $3.6 million an acre. I think we can all agree property values in Westwood are high, but they're certainly not that high. I'd also like to point out that what we get is a new, fully accessible, code-compliant, energy-efficient, and comfortable community center for all residents to enjoy. We get a renovated Islington library that will be far better than what we have today. We get a new community center with the opportunity for recreation programs, including all the programs that currently take place in the Islington Community Center building, plus new programs that we haven't been able to put in that building. We'll be able to design this from scratch to accommodate all the uses that our community members desire in that property. We also get the businesses that are in the area to continue in that same area. The tailor shop will be in 256 High Street. Matt the Barber has already moved to that location. Crown Cleaners is continuing in its location. And MMO also will have a brand new facility, a new 5,000 square foot facility at the same non-commercial lease rates that it enjoys now. Other benefits to the community are the ability to get rid of a substantial capital obligation that we have right now. As Mr. Walsh described, the ICC building and Wentworth Hall are both in need of substantial renovations. Just to keep those buildings open and operating, we would need to spend approximately $2 million on those buildings. That would be just a Band-Aid. What we would get is the same tired buildings that are energy inefficient and are not fully accessible, nor are they code compliant. If we wanted to spend $5 million, we could get something slightly more comfortable, but nowhere near as appropriate as the new facilities that we're building. And the new facilities that we're building will only cost us about $3.7 million, of which $2.2 million comes from the developer. So the net price tag to the town is $1.5 million for a new building that will be better than what you could possibly get in the existing ones if you spent over $5 million. There was a point made about wetlands. There is not 10,000 square feet of wetlands. There's less than 4,000 square feet. On the west side of Washington Street, we are trading land with the developer. It's essentially an even swap, but we actually make out better. We're giving them 0.69 acres, they're giving us back 0.89. Even if you deduct the value of that wetlands, we're still coming up with 0.8 acres more than what we're giving. So I think no matter how you look at it from the number point of view, from the benefits to the community, I think it's clearly a win-win.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to recognize Mr. Rafsky. I'm going to caution you that only new points should be raised and not repeating information that we've received. Please state your name and address.
My name, excuse me, my name is Steve Rafsky, 646 Canton Street, and I am going to take this off. I will try to keep my comments limited. I think Mr. Rogers and Ms. Lochning just covered about everything I wrote down, but I did want to make a couple of other comments. I am encouraging people to vote in favor of these articles. As a little bit of background, I've lived in town a little over 30 years, or just about 30 years, and for 25 of those years I have served on different boards, including the FinCom, Economic Development, the Planning Board, Open Space, and other things. And along with Selectman Hyde, we were the face of university redevelopment. As I listen to the comments tonight, I hear many of the comments that we heard 10 years ago, 12, 15 years ago about University Avenue. Traffic would be unbearable. The town couldn't manage the project. That the return on the investment was going to be terrible. That we should wait for a better deal. As a result of going through a very deliberative process, as a result of listening to the community, we ended up with a project of 140 acres that came in under budget, has less negative impact to the town than predicted, has more revenue to the town than predicted, does not have a traffic negative impact to the town, and as a result of being one of the people as the face of that process, I have over 100 emails from town residents apologizing or thanking us for doing the right thing. As I've been watching this process, I see the same thing. I applaud those, and I have not been part of it. I applaud the process. I applaud every town board who reviewed with very much diligence the recommendations and the offers. We should not let this go by. We don't know what it will do. The 40B issues are real. Affordable housing is a high priority. I live in Islington. I shop in Islington. My post office box is in Islington. My insurance company is in Islington. A grocery store is there. This is not a place that represents the best of Westwood. We can do better. This project will do it better. And I strongly encourage you to respect the process. The last thing I will say is the permitting process and the process that follows is where the experts in the town will make sure it's the right project for the town. If we could do it for 140 acres, the town is well equipped to do it for this project as well. Please vote yes.
Sir, over here in the yellow.
Hi, my name is Charles Perret, 12 Cedar Hill Drive at Westwood. I sit on the Town of Westwood's Conservation Committee. All the wetlands bylaws have been addressed. The conservation land has all been approved.
You have to speak directly into the microphone.
They exceeded our guidelines for the conservation area. Everything's been approved. I sit at the light, I look over there at the development that's already been done, and I notice that it's a big improvement. We seem to be forgetting that the town isn't in the real estate business. It might be in our best
Sir,
interest.
you really do need to speak right into the microphone.
Hi.
Thank you.
Yes, all our committees have been in favor of this, and I think we should vote positive on it because the town really isn't in the real estate business. We haven't been able to work the property to the benefit, and I vote for yes for the project. Thank you.
Yes, over here.
Good evening, and thank you, Ms. Moderator. My name is Nada Milosavljevic Fabrizio. Can people hear me? No? My name is Nada Milosavljevic Fabrizio, and I reside at 32 Webster Street. And I am up here because I feel compelled to speak further about Attorney Bailey's suggestion with respect to the most recent environmental testing from the soil boring that was done at our current municipal parking lot. I don't have my paperwork in front of me. I'm remiss. I only have my phone and notes, but I would like town meeting to be advised and to really know that the benzoate pyrene that was detected in the sample from the SH5 soil boring on the map in our parking lot is listed as a Group 1 carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. And to dismiss and say everything's okay, I just feel that it's disingenuous and it's just not right. I sent on March 23rd,
Ms. Fabrizio, I'm going to ask you to really stick to the facts. You've made your point.
I'm sorry, sorry for interrupting, but I am sticking to the facts. On March 23rd.
But you need to do so without personalizing, please.
I'm sorry. On March 23rd, I personally sent an email to the Finance and Warrant Commission's administrator to distribute to the members. And my concern was specifically the municipal parking lot. And with respect to Sanford, the environmentalist who said, you know, we did the report and we found a slight high level of benzoate pyrene and everything's okay. It's not okay. That parking lot, when Chevron had to do the remediation, that remediation lasted 10 years from 1993 to 2003. The risk categorization there were 2 risk categorizations in the final report. It was 1, which is the highest and the worst possible, and the other risk categorization was a 3, given that at that time in 2003, that parking lot was a parking lot. The town never filed with the Registry of Deeds limiting use of that property. So it has a risk categorization with Mass DEP as a 1 and a 3. And to say that there's nothing wrong and, you know, we're going to dig up this dirt and everything's going to be fine because for $150,000 we're just going to move it away and dig it up and build a community center on that site, I find that distressing. And that's what I'd like to say, and I think that people should be aware. There is 999 pages in the Mass Contingency Plan with respect to our environmental concerns. And I respect the town meeting member who is the environmental consultant that spoke, or the attorney who spoke. These cleanups can go on for years and cost many, many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. I think to dismiss and just say to town meeting members that it's okay that we put a community center and to build, put the library in the community center and build the community center in a basement where old people and young people and all residents will use that. It needs to be further investigated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I cannot hear if somebody, so I need to understand who's moving the question. If I can't identify that person, I can't move the question, so. Mr. Cummings, are you moving the question? Okay. To move the question requires a 2/3 vote. So someone has moved to call the question that would end debate and move this to a vote. I'm going to ask all those in favor of moving the question to say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. I believe it's a 2/3 vote in favor of moving the question. Therefore, to remind everybody about where we are at this point, we are on Article 11. We have a recommendation for the Finance and Warrant Commission by a vote of 10 in favor and 1 abstention that the town so vote. It has been seconded. It does require a 2/3 vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. Okay. I doubt the vote. We will take an electronic vote. All those in favor? Hold on, are you all set, Greg? Oh, yeah, he's quick. All those in favor of Article 11, please vote yes or 1. All those opposed, vote 2 or no. Now. Yep. The timer has started. Is the voting closed? Article 11 did not meet the two-thirds requirement and therefore does not pass. Please hold your applause. We have a motion for reconsideration and a second on the motion for reconsideration. Those motion for reconsideration is a two-thirds vote? Is a two-thirds vote. So before we get to that point, we will hear debate on the motion for reconsideration. I cannot hear you unless you go to a microphone, ma'am.
Madam Moderator, could you just please read the...
Please go to a microphone.
The one that I had first. The first one.
Yes.
The numbers
Yeah,
on
I just want to know
Article
the numbers.
11, the numbers on Article 11, if that was the question, I could not hear you. Yes, 658. No, 421. So, given that vote, we need to stop yelling. Please go to a microphone. We have a motion for reconsideration that has been seconded. It is on the floor.
Slide back up. Yeah, that's all right.
Is there someone who wants to speak on the motion for reconsideration?
Yes, Madam Moderator. Michael Walsh. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that you've seen a lot of slides tonight and you have some information. I just want to tell you one thing. If I can get this slide back up. No, the computer.
I'm not sure what everyone's doing here. We can stop right now and hold town meeting. If I can't stop outbursts, people know where the microphones are. I have recognized Selectman Walsh, and he has an opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, if you take a look at the slide behind me, I just want you to understand one thing very important. The land that he owns, he has absolute right to do certain things on that land that we will have no input whatsoever. I'm not saying that he's going to build a 40B. I'm not going to say anything other than that. But if he were not to develop it and sell it to someone else who could put in a 40B, we do not have rights under 40B for restrictions on anything. They supersede the local restrictions that we have. Automatically supersedes a 40B. That's why you see that giant monstrosity up on Route 128 that I drive by almost every day. He will do something with his property. I don't know. He's sitting over here. His lawyer is here, his architect is here, and he is here to hear this. And he has done the best that he can, and I've negotiated the best that I can. If you think that this deal is not good for the town, I understand that. What you need to understand is sometimes the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know.
Yes, Ms. Prevotera.
Just for clarification, Christine Prevotera, 16 Dean Street. I tried to use the mic over there closest to me. Unfortunately, the gentleman could not stand and let me out. So I had to come all the way over here. My question is, can you please read the numbers? Because in the back, we cannot see the numbers when you have those graphs with the votes. So we cannot see the two-thirds versus whatever the other number is,
That's
okay?
fine. Can you let me answer the question?
Yep.
There were 658 people who voted yes, and there were 421 people who voted no. There is now a motion for reconsideration on the floor. Ms. Loughnane?
Thank you.
Nora Loughnane, 74 Sterling Road. I'm also the Director of Community and Economic Development. We didn't discuss affordable housing fully, and I want to do that because I want you all to understand exactly what is at stake here. The town is currently protected under 40B. We have over 10%. We will not have over 10% when the census numbers come in 2020. That's about a year and a half away. It took 2.5 years to get this project to town meeting for consideration. This is the best project possible for the area and the best project to achieve our goals at 40B. If this project does not go forward, something else may, here or somewhere else in town, but there is nothing on the horizon that will get us to stay above 40B by 2020, in that year and a half away. I know there's been a lot of misinformation. There have been people who talk about safe harbor. Safe harbor is what we have now by having over 10%. Another way of getting safe harbor is by having a housing production plan that's approved by the State Department of Housing and Community Development. We can do that, but what that means is we have to submit a plan that we agree to produce a minimum of 30 units, and we agree to do that within a year of the date of providing that plan. If you don't like the 18 units of housing that are here, that are very carefully crafted, and that actually achieve 12 units of affordable housing, you are not going to like the plan that gets to 30 units of housing if we ever get there. This is by far our best opportunity to stay in compliance with 40B. This vote is significant. If you choose to vote against it because you don't like the character of the development, that is certainly your right. But please don't do it with a misunderstanding that we will get above 40B in another manner. You'll hear another article tonight about a way we want to chip away at it. We have a minimum obligation as of today with the units that actually have certificates of occupancy of at least 9 units short. That problem comes into being in 2020. If all of the units that have been approved are actually developed by then, we will be 21 units short. We'll fall somewhere between there. We don't know exactly where. You'll hear a proposal later tonight to establish a fund that can create hopefully as many as 7 units. That won't get us over the top. It won't even get us over where we are today. We need the 12 units that come out of this proposal. So I implore you to please vote in favor of it, and keep in mind that in addition to the affordable housing, we're getting significant tax benefits, revitalization of the community center, and hopefully a spurring of other commercial development in the area to help with our tax base. I recommend that you vote in favor.
Mr. Shapiro.
Thank you. I want to offer a word of caution consistent with what both Selectman Walsh and Nora said, and that is, let us not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. This is a good project. It may not be perfect. When I hear the opponents, some of them say there's not enough tax revenue, and others say it's too big. Is it too big or not big enough? If you want more tax revenue, it's going to be bigger. If you are willing to take less tax revenue and less money for the town, it will be more modest. But it is something that can happen in a reasonable period of time. As one of your selectmen for 6 years, by the way, Phil Shapiro, 159 Mill Street, I saw the capital cost to address the systems in the Islington Community Center go up every year, and many years they went up by 6 figures. I mean, the cost of keeping that building functional long-term is very, very expensive. I assume that hasn't changed in the 4 years since I left. So I would just reiterate that we don't want to look back 5 or 10 years from now at this as our best opportunity and have lost it. Thank you.
Yes, I do want to remind folks that this is based on the motion for reconsideration. So for those of you who are not familiar with parliamentary procedure, there will be a vote on the motion for reconsideration, which needs to pass by 2/3. If it does pass by 2/3, then we would again take up Article 11. I'm seeing folks who have spoken before, and I'm going to ask you and be fairly strict about making sure that we're not repeating ourselves here. Yes, Mr. Harding.
Yes, John Harding, 148 Forbes Road. I'd like to address precisely the motion that's before the town meeting, which none of the other speakers have addressed. This is a motion to reconsider. In other words, do we need to vote again? We took a vote. The results were there. That's the end of the story, and what's being conducted now is simply scare tactics on the 40B issue to try to force people in Islington to bear responsibility for this. The fact is that the planning board and everyone else who has approved these mega subdivisions in town, including one right behind my street with homes starting at $2 million, they've not considered or cared about the 40B issue. So if that is what is creating the threat that in the future we might be below 40B, it is not appropriate here. We voted. There's nothing to reconsider.
Mr. McCusker?
I'm Tom McCusker. I live at 33 Brookfield Road in Islington. 33 Brookfield Road is right across the street from Roach Brothers. What's being discussed here tonight is my neighborhood. I have been there for 52 years. When I came to Islington, Islington wasn't just tired, it was exhausted. I have spent 8 years as a member of the Board of Selectmen. I have spent 43 years as your town council. This is my 51st annual town meeting. What's being presented to you tonight will rejuvenate and continue to rejuvenate my neighborhood. All of the suppositions and questions have been answered to, I believe, my satisfaction and to yours. I urge you to vote for reconsideration. Thank you.
I have, Mr. Kelly, I need to just point to someone over here. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Anita Wysocki. I live at 156 School Street. I wanted to first thank you, whoever's responsible for the electronic voting. And I think it's a step forward and in the right direction so that everyone is heard equally. What I do not understand is if we voted already, why is there a vote to reconsider what we've already voted for? Can you please explain the parliamentary rules about that and how that is possibly fair?
There has been a motion for reconsideration coming after the vote on the article. That is part of the parliamentary rules and it's part of our town rules. We are now debating the motion for reconsideration, which I will close debate on fairly soon. And then depending upon that vote, it does require a 2/3 vote. If reconsideration passes, we would then go back and vote on Article 11 again. And again, it is the rule.
Thank you.
Was there someone, Mr. Kelly?
Yeah, good evening. Brian Kelly, 90 Church Street. I'm on the Westwood School Committee for about one more hour. And apologize for being late here tonight. I don't want to get into all the details that we've already discussed. With respect to the motion to reconsider, that is quite common. I only want to make one point on behalf of the school committee. We have not taken an official position, but with respect to some issues have been bandied about as to how it will affect the schools. A 40B project over in Islington will be far, far worse for the schools and our enrollment than 18 condos. So for that reason, amongst others, I would urge you to vote a yes for this project once we get back to the vote. But that's the only issue I want to address. That is a 40B project. If that goes through, that's bad news for the schools.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. And Mr. Kelly, I have to note that we had recognized you earlier, and thank you for your service on the school committee. Yes.
Hi, my name is Jackie Keaveney. I live at 22 Redwood Road. Since you brought up 40B, Islington is also my neighborhood. University Station was promoted as solving any affordability issues at the time. So if that's the case, how could we be in this situation? How can we believe that this is going to solve our 40B problem? And because as far as I'm concerned, I feel like the town misguided us. Why does the town wait for the developers to help with this problem instead of aggressively attacking the issue themselves, purchasing or building their own properties, as other towns have done and successfully, prevented 40B? And why doesn't the town pair with the developer for a friendly 40B, especially for elderly housing, which our aging population needs, like they did with Westwood Glen?
Ms. Loughnane?
Keaveney? Oh, I thought you said my
Ms.
last name.
Loughnane is going to answer your questions, ma'am.
Okay, to the first question about University Station. University Station was the project that got us over 10%. What that did was it got us a safe harbor through 2020. That's the way that project was described. That's the way that project was conceived. It was done in a manner that required all of the affordable housing, or the majority of the affordable housing, to be put up front to get us over 10% as soon as possible. When that was done in 2013, that bought us 7 years free from the pressure of 40B. It was never said that we won't have this continuing issue every decade, because that's the way 40B is written. Every town in the state has to deal with this, so does Westwood. So we got above 10%, that'll keep us through 2020. Now we know we need to stay above 10%. One of the things that happened between the time the University Station project was approved and today was that we lost units at Westwood Glen. Those were the only units in an affordable housing project in Westwood that were not permanently restricted. It was developed under an old program, a financing program from Mass Housing in the early 1970s, and at that time it was a 20-year program. When the 20 years ran out, it was renewed for another 20 years. When that ran out in 2013, soon after the University Station project was approved, we worked with the property owner to try and get them to sell it to an affordable developer. They chose not to. They sold it to a market rate developer. We then worked with that market rate developer to try and get a program where they could have affordable units. They chose not to. So we have been working to stay above 10%, and we will continue to do that indefinitely. This doesn't go away. You buy safe harbor for 10 years, and then you investigate it again. We do work cooperatively with developers. We do work creatively. We've created all of these units already. We have 567 units of affordable housing listed on our subsidized housing inventory. That's not by accident. That's by a lot of hard work over 30 years, and we will continue to do that. In order to go forward, we need units to be listed by 2020. This is by far the best project to get us to that point. I'd also like to point out, Mr. Kelly mentioned that a 40B would be more detrimental to the schools. One of the reasons for that is the number of children that would come out of the project. This project proposes 18 two-bedroom condominiums. They are projected to bring no more than 3 school-aged children to town. If we look at a 40B, which as I mentioned before would be a minimum of 30 units, that would have to have at least 10% of those units as 3-bedroom units. 3-bedroom units attract significantly more children, would bring more students to the school system. This is the best proposal of all the proposals we've looked at and worked with. This is the one that's ready to go.
Okay, at this point,
I'd like to move the question.
Okay, there is a motion to move the question. We have a motion for reconsideration. That motion does require a 2/3 vote. All those in, I'm sorry. The motion to move the vote requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of moving the vote, please say yes. All those opposed, say no. Okay, we'll have an electronic vote, and to be very clear, and folks, please listen up, this is on the motion to call the question. This is not on the motion for reconsideration. This is on the motion to call the question and does require a 2/3 vote. I do not know whether there's a 2/3 vote. There will be an electronic vote. All of those in favor of moving the question, please vote. Okay, there's a lot of confusion out there, and if you don't listen to what I am saying, you won't know how to vote. Please do listen. We have a number of motions. Right now, the motion that you are being asked to vote on is a motion to move the question. Disregard what was up for reconsideration. We are not voting on reconsideration right now. We are we are voting on whether to continue discussion, debate, about the motion for reconsideration. So we are voting on whether we want to stop debate and vote on the motion for reconsideration next. Right now, we're just voting on the motion to move the question. All those in favor of stopping debate and moving the question, please press 1 or yes. All those opposed, please vote 2 or no. Again, this is on moving the question only. This is on stopping debate only. If you want to stop debate, you will vote yes. If you want to continue to debate on the motion for reconsideration, you will vote no. So 975 people voted yes to move the question. 87 people voted no, not to move the question. It is a 2/3 vote in favor of moving the question. We are now going to vote on the motion for reconsideration. Again, the motion for reconsideration, could we have the explanation can't go up. The motion for reconsideration requires a 2/3 vote. And what you are voting on is whether you want to reconsider the vote on Article 11 and take a re-vote on Article 11. So again, this is a vote on the motion for reconsideration. If you want to reconsider the vote on Article 11, please press yes or 1. If you do not want to reconsider the vote on Article 11, in other words, you want that vote to stand, you will vote 2 or no. I hope that's understood. The vote is open. On this question of reconsideration, 702 voted yes, 348 voted no. There is a 2/3 vote to reconsider the vote on Article 11. We are now, at this point, taking up Article 11 again. So the question has been called. There's a second on the question. We will now vote on the motion to call the question. That is, again, I'm going to get confused here now. So this is, if you want more debate, vote no. If you are ready to vote on Article 11 but understand that this is not yet the vote on Article 11, please vote yes. All right, there is some confusion out there. If you are done talking about Article 11, please vote yes. If you do not want to debate Article 11, vote yes. If you want to reopen debate on Article 11, vote no. Let the voting begin. On the motion to move the question, 960 to 11, the question has been called. We will now take a vote on Article 11. If you are in favor of Article 11, please vote yes. If you are opposed to Article 11, please vote no. This is a re-vote on Article 11. And the voting is open.
I'm going to, well, I can speak to.
On a vote, on the final vote, please.
I doubt the vote
Please.
and request that the moderator divide the room.
You can't, that is out of order. So the final vote is 709 to 354. It is a 2/3 vote in favor. Article 11 passes. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money to pay costs of designing, relocating, constructing, originally equipping, and furnishing a relocated and expanded Wentworth Hall. This comes before
On a point of order,
town
Madam
meeting.
Moderator. On a point of order.
What is your point of order, Mrs.
My
Schwartz?
point of order is that
I
it is
cannot
now-
hear you.
It is now 10:30. We voted that we would adjourn at 10:45 if we thought we could not finish today, considering...
We are going to try to finish today, Mrs. Schwartz, so let's keep going. Article 12.
Oh, yeah.
There is a recommendation from the Finance Commission by a vote of 10 in favor and 1 abstention that the town so vote. This does require a 2/3 vote. Is there a second? There is a second. Is there any debate on Article 12? Seeing no debate on Article 12, all those in favor, and this is a 2/3 vote, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. There will be an electronic vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Please press 1 or yes. And if you are opposed, press 2 or no. And the voting has started. Article 12 has passed with a 2/3 vote, 676 to 315. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to approve certain amendments to the official zoning map by rezoning parcels of land located at 9 School Street. There is a planning board report, but before you go ahead and make the report, Chairman Lobenstein. And you're making your report on all of your articles now.
I can do that. Shall I do that? Do both? Okay. Good evening. My name is Trevor Lobenstein. I reside at 375 Clapboard Tree Street. I've served the town on the planning board for the past 3 years and have been the chairman of the planning board for the past year. I've also served as a member and chairman of the Islington Center Task Force and various subcommittees related to this article and the Islington Center project. Thank you all for being in attendance tonight and for all of you who have participated in this process that is culminating this evening. The planning board's, as to Article 13, in compliance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 5, the planning board held a public hearing on the zoning amendment on February 27, 2018, and held continued hearing sessions on March 5, March 20, March 26, April 4, April 10, April 23, and closed the hearing on May 15. The planning board voted 4-1 to recommend the town meeting vote to approve Article 13 as presented in the warrant. The planning board's favorable support comes after a full public hearing process. The board thoroughly reviewed all technical and detailed aspects of the project and this article. The board voted in favor of the project because it has many benefits for the whole town of Westwood, many of which were presented by Mr. Walsh, Mr. Bailey, and Ms. Loughnane tonight. This improvement, or the action on this article will serve the improvement to an underutilized town center with a significant financial benefit through increased annual tax revenue and property value. The project introduces new housing options for our residents and adds 12 new units to the town's subsidized housing inventory. The development creates a mix of desirable uses common in village centers, exhibits a comprehensive approach to redevelopment, and revives neglected and underutilized commercial and community properties. As to Article 15, Madam Moderator, do you want to put this text for Article 15 on the board as well? Or should we stick with 13?
You don't need to read the whole text. You can cut to the chase.
Okay. As to Article 15, the Planning Board held a public hearing on the zoning amendment on February 27, 2018, and held continued hearing sessions on March 5, March 20, March 26, April 4th, April 10th, April 23rd, and closed the hearing on May 15th. The Planning Board voted 4-1 to recommend unfavorable action for Article 15. The Planning Board recommends against this amendment because the proposed cap of 30 dwellings is too restrictive to encourage redevelopment of underutilized properties, is in conflict with the stated purpose and goals of the FMUOD bylaw, and violates the zoning uniformity requirements. Thank you.
Article 13, to see if the town will vote to approve. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to approve certain amendments to the official zoning map. Again, on the Finance and Warrant Commission's vote of 10 in favor and 1 abstention, recommending that the town so vote, and requiring a 2/3 vote. Is there a second? Is there debate on Article 13? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Milinda Muttaya, 132 Willard Circle. I'm speaking on behalf of all my Islington residents who have been attending all planning board meetings, FinCom meetings, expressing our concerns and our fears and the risks that we are taking with this Islington development. And there was a majority, there was more than 1/3 who voted against this, but we were coerced by our fears, right?
Let's be
And for
careful,
the-
sir, and make your point.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we have to, as Islington residents, next time around, as we voted our planning board member, our own representative, to bring transparency, we should work towards the next election. vote your own planning board members, your own selectmen,
Sir, this
so
is,
that we
sir,
can be
sir,
heard.
you need to be speaking to Article 13. Yes, Mr. Atkins. So you will need to speak right into that microphone.
It's David Atkins, 85 Parker Street, a resident of Islington, and a member of the planning board. I just wanted to observe, one, that 4 of our planning board members are residents of Islington, at least until the end of them. Well, yeah, there are actually 4 members of the planning board who live in Islington. And I want to say on this project, what I was going to say earlier was how this project is the kind of reason, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to be on the planning board, was to help do something that would benefit the community. We don't need scare tactics to support this. We don't need to look at the negatives. The positives of this project are strong enough. The benefits that this will provide, and what's been described many times here in terms of an improved community center, an improved and revitalized Islington Center, I support this 100% now. We've gone through a long process. I've tried very hard to share and to have a balanced viewpoint on this, and to ensure that people got their input into this process. I think we have a great project now. I think that this is something that is going to shape the future of Westwood for years to come. I think we should vote for Islington and for the future of Westwood.
If there are no other comments, we will move to the vote on Article 13. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, no? There will be an electronic vote. Again, this is a 2/3 vote. If you are in favor of Article 13, please press 1 or yes. If you are opposed to Article 13, please press 2 or no. Please open the vote. By a vote of 652 to 237 yes, there is a 2/3 vote for Article 13. Moving to Article 14, to see if the town will vote to appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds an amount of money to be expended under the direction of the School Building Committee for the purpose of paying costs of a feasibility study for the Paul Hanlon Elementary School, 790 Gay Street, Westwood. Comes before town meeting on the Finance and Warrant Commission's unanimous vote to recommend that the town so vote. Does require a 2/3 vote. Is there a second on Article 14? There is a second. Is there debate on Article 14? Yes, Mr. Lobenstein.
My name is Trevor Lobenstein. I reside at 375 Clapboard Tree Street. Folks, those of you who are leaving the room, could you please pause and consider how important the vote on the floor is at this moment in time? Thank you for your efforts before, but this vote is critical to the future of our schools in town and how we consider our school facilities. Thank you.
Other comments on Article 14? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 14, please vote. Please vote. All those in favor of Article 14, please vote yes. All those opposed? It is a 2/3 vote in favor of Article 14. Article 15. And we have 4 articles to go. Please hang in there with us to get this important work done. For those who are leaving, please leave your electronic voting devices at the door. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to approve certain amendments to the Westwood zoning bylaw to add definitive caps on the number of residential dwelling units constructed in an FMUOD overlay District 6 and 7. Coming before town meeting on the petitioner's article, Ms. Nada Milosevic Fabrizio, 32 Webster Street, comes before town meeting on the Finance and Warrant Commission's vote of 10 in favor and 2 opposed to recommend that the town vote indefinite postponement, and does require a 2/3 vote. On Article 15, no, strike that, I'm wrong. The indefinite postponement is a majority vote. If we got to the underlying article, it would be a 2/3 vote. So the motion for indefinite postponement requires a majority vote. I apologize for that. Ms. Fabrizio?
Good evening again. My name is Nada Milosevic Fabrizio, and I live at 32 Webster Street. And what you see up here, Article 15, is, let's see, it appears in our town warrant as a result of a petition. Can people hear me, please? As a petition, and it is a direct result of the November 17th, 2017, and that's a typo. Next slide, please. It was the November 17th, my mistake, 2017 town meeting rejection of Article 5, which proposed to add a definitive cap of 90 residential dwelling units in each of the 2 FMUOD districts, 6 and 7, for a combined total of 180 units, whether they were condominiums or apartments. Please, Christine. Thank you. Under our current zoning bylaw, a residential cap exists for all mixed-use developments within these 2 overlay districts, specifically Washington Street and High Street. I'm sorry. Which effectively limits the construction of residential units to no more than 1/2, 50% of any development project. This article is intended to add a definitive cap on the number of residential dwelling units which may be constructed by special permit within the FMUOD 6 and the FMUOD 7, High Street and Washington Street, flexible multiple use overlay districts. Excuse me. This is a beautiful picture of Islington Center at dusk. This photo was taken while standing in front of the building that houses our post office and Islington Pizza, facing north toward Dedham. Unfortunately, this is moot. However, I will continue. This photo was taken on May 23rd at 6:30 p.m. while I was sitting on School Street, heading to cross the Washington Street intersection to head underneath the East Street Bridge. If you note on the right of this photograph, where you see the corner of our existing fire station, that is parking on the side, on the School Street side of the building that houses our post office and Islington Pizza. And if you've never experienced having to back out of any of those spaces, I wish you well, waiting for a kind soul that will actually stop and motion, please come, I will let you out. This is another photo. It was taken on a Thursday.
Okay, we owe...
Excuse me?
We owe the
Excuse
presenter, Ms. Fabrizio. Let me speak.
Thank you.
We do need you to move through the pictures.
I am
'cause
moving.
We can see what they are.
Thank you. This was taken on a Thursday, May 24th at 12:30 in the afternoon. Islington Center traffic as it currently exists. The next photo is School Street, where we have a playground that all of the families in our immediate neighborhood use that playground. This is the parking that exists on School Street. The next example is more parking on School Street for people looking for the playground. I don't know what's going on. Sorry about that, people. Okay, this is another example of the parking that currently exists at the School Street Playground, which is now part of this proposed Islington Center redevelopment. Another picture of parking at the playground on School Street, and another picture on School Street. Oh, and one more, number 4. Lots of pictures of School Street. This is a rendering of the proposed Islington Center redevelopment project, and I think that it demonstrates the reality of the outcries of serious safety concerns for both pedestrians and motorists that have been reiterated at every public hearing respective of the redevelopment. And this is not far-fetched. One more photo. This is a photo of Westwood Center traffic while I was sitting on Gay Street. That building at the end of Gay Street houses High Street Market. It's a little strip plaza. And just another angle of Gay and High Street.
All right, please.
And another
Please.
angle of Gay and High Street.
We're almost,
And
we're almost
this photo is, again, not beyond the realm of reality. This is the potential that Gay Street and High Street will have aesthetics changes once FMUOD 7 proposals go through. This article is good for our community in so many ways. It provides a clearly understandable limit on the maximum number of residential units that may be built by special permit in each of FMUOD 6 and FMUOD 7. It will prevent the unleashing of excessive developmental disruption and risk. It supports economic development in a manner that provides for proportional development of residential units that will not diminish the livability, the scale, the character, and the economic value of existing residential neighborhoods. It will serve to reduce the demands on our existing strained public infrastructure. It will not effectuate any changes to the existing affordability requirements set forth in the reference section of our zoning bylaws. It will encourage a thorough examination of the underlying problems that seem to plague the ineffective marketing strategies presently being used to promote occupancy for the numerous empty residential units that are currently available in Westwood today. And it will precipitate further creative measures to solicit strategic improvements in order to facilitate progress towards full occupancy of our existing empty units. I recognize and respect that speculation was invoked during various public body hearings in reference to this article being at risk of non-approval by the Massachusetts Attorney General. However, Massachusetts arguably has the strongest type of home rule, whereby municipal action is presumed to be valid since zoning has always been treated as a local matter. Mass General Law authorizes our town to amend, add, or repeal zoning ordinances and bylaws in the manner that's prescribed within that section.
Existing legal precedence recognizes that we, at town meeting, if enact a zoning bylaw, it is not only the exercise of our independent police power, it is also a legislative act which carries a strong presumption of validity. In accordance with the Attorney General's own standard of review and general zoning principles, it acknowledges that pursuant to MGL Chapter 40, Section 32, the Attorney General has a limited power of disapproval with every presumption made in favor of the validity of municipal bylaws. I respectfully ask this town meeting for consideration to form its own thoughtful and independent decision in support of this article, despite the resulting negative recommendation of indefinite postponement issued by a majority of our Finance and Warrant Commission members. It is significant, I believe, that 2 members of FinCom disagreed with the majority of their colleagues and voted to defer the decision on this article to this town meeting assembly. According to the most recent information that I've seen on our town website, there have been approximately 50 proposed zoning amendments from 2015 to present. If this proposed limit proves insufficient in the future, we will always have the tools in hand to revisit and once again amend our zoning bylaw. Thank you for your consideration and your support.
Is there any discussion about Article 15, Selectman Hickey? Perhaps, Selectman Hickey, you can go to the other microphone.
I would urge town meeting to follow suit of FinCom and vote yes on indefinite postponement. The language of the petitioner's article is similar to a warrant article issued by the Selectmen in 2017. There are critical changes to the language, however, that change both its intent and its outcome. I urge town meeting to vote yes on indefinite postponement.
There is a motion to call the question, to move the vote. There is a second. We will now vote on the motion to call the question, which will limit end debate on Article 15. So those who are in favor of ending debate, please say yes. All those opposed, say no. It is a 2/3 vote in favor of calling the question. We will now vote on the underlying question, Article 15. All those in favor, again, this is a 2/3, no, we won't. Indefinite postponement. I'm doing it again. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. Coming before us on the Finance Commission's motion for indefinite postponement, and requiring a majority vote. All those in favor of indefinite postponement, vote yes. Yes. Opposed, no. No. It is a vote in favor of indefinite postponement. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to apply for and accept state funds to be received as prepayment and/or reimbursement for road improvements and deposit said funds into town's road improvement account. This requires a 2/3 vote and comes before town meeting on the Finance and Warrant Commission's unanimous vote recommending that the town so vote. Is there a second? Is there debate on Article 16? Seeing no debate and requiring a 2/3 vote, those in favor of Article 16, please vote yes. Yes. Opposed, no. It is a 2/3 vote in favor of Article 16. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to amend the code of the town of Westwood, Chapter 355, Article 2, Section 355-5. Coming before town meeting on the FinCom's unanimous recommendation that the town so vote and requiring a 2/3 vote. Is there a second? Is there debate on Article 17? Seeing no debate on Article 17, all those and requiring a 2/3 vote, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is a 2/3 vote in favor of Article 17, Article 18, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds the sum of $125,000 to conduct a comprehensive study of the security needs and assessments for municipal and school buildings. Coming before the Finance and Warrant Commission has recommended that the town so vote unanimously. The quantum of vote is a majority vote. Is there a second? Is there debate?
Yes.
On Article 18? Yes, Mr. Becker.
It's not debate, just discussion. Kevin Becker, 1227 High Street. Just for context, I'm a psychologist who has spent more than 25 years working with governments, communities, and businesses to help prevent and respond to mass violence and tragedies. And so I've been involved in many discussions around funding and how communities should fund and support the security that's really needed in their communities. And this article, while I support it and will vote for it, I think is, it's not really a comprehensive study of security. This is a facilities review of our buildings, and it will draw our attention to issues of windows and door locks and the kinds of things that in the industry are often called guns, gates, and guards. But a true comprehensive study of security would really look at things like curriculum frameworks, issues like bullying and inclusion, threat assessment teams, preparedness and response plans. These are all the kinds of things that go into a truly comprehensive study of security. So the way the FinCom wrote their response to this is setting it up for funding for next year, which is great, but I would encourage the FinCom, the Selectmen, and the school committee to really be looking at their budgets for a much broader review next year that would really be a much more comprehensive review beyond simply a facilities review. So I support the article, but I do think that it's a bit tunnel vision and it needs to be much broader to really achieve the kind of safety that I think we're hoping for our kids and our residents.
Thank you. Other comments on Article 18? Seeing none, and this is a majority vote, all those in favor of Article 18 say yes. Yes. Opposed, no. Article 18 passes. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to raise and/or appropriate and/or transfer from available funds the sum of $1 million to establish an affordable housing account and authorize Board of Selectmen to expend in a manner that will support and create affordable housing. Coming before town meeting on the Finance and Warrant Commission's unanimous vote recommending that the town so vote and requiring a majority vote. Is there a second? Is there any debate about Article 19? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is it is not a unanimous vote in favor. I really want to say it takes a village here in Westwood to conduct these town meetings. Thank you to town clerk. Thank you to our boards of selectmen. Thank you to FinCom and Marianne LeBlanc, who is leaving as chair of FinCom. And thank you for giving me the honor of serving as your moderator.